very good example. By the way, your account, quite accurate, but left out an important point. Slater also was crosswise with Pam Bondi, and that
I think it's about might makes right. I think it's about the president wants to have something to his name where he expanded, the United States while he was in office.
So what is the real purpose of Venezuela and Greenland? We all know the real purpose of Iran. What? And by the way, he's not getting us out of Ukraine, which that's a whole nother story. But what is the real purpose of Venezuela and Greenland? Right? We all know war's a racket. It's never what it appears. So what is it really?
Jimmy, didn't you know it was fentanyl until they found out that Venezuela doesn't make fentanyl. And so then it was cocaine. But no, it's not just cocaine, it's narco-terrorism. And it's funded by the oil. Now, this is where they lost me completely. If there's one industry that doesn't need subsidized by the oil industry, it's the cocaine industry, right? Like, I'm pretty sure in the profit and loss balance sheet of Venezuela and the CIA, that cocaine is a profit center. So don't tell me we needed to take their oil to keep them from selling cocaine. But that's what we did. And then they said, actually, it's about a quarter of a century old contract that some of these oil companies had with the country of Venezuela. And we're just coming in to enforce the contract and take their oil. But when did our soldiers become the policemen to enforce these civil contracts with foreign countries about who's going to drill and refine their oil? Anyway, so it became about the oil. But we've got enough oil. We got enough. If we want, we could be energy independent in this country. I think it's about them going away from the dollar, from engaging in trade with countries that were sanctioned. It was not what they said it was about in the beginning. They called fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction, and they said that's why we got to bomb the boats and eventually why we got to go into Venezuela. What is Greenland about? Oh, by the way, while we're still on Venezuela, the Constitution says that Congress appropriates the money. That couldn't be more clear. Okay, it's our job to write the checks. The founders made that the case. But the president and his geniuses at the White House have created a second treasury that's in Qatar. They're saying we're going to take all the oil money and we're going to put it in a bank overseas.
Yes.
No. So one of my questions is, why does the bank need to be overseas when you create your second treasury? I think it's to hide it from the long arm of the law, from the judges who would say, that is Congress's money. We're going to take that and put it in the treasury. You can't have money that you spend. Like, it's one thing to confiscate money from another country, but it's another thing to spend it. And I was talking to a lawyer about this who was troubled as I was, about the president, the executive branch, taking the role of Congress to appropriate money. And I said, but doesn't the CIA do this every day? And he said, yes, but you, Congress, wrote a law that lets the CIA do this. You've created no law to let the president have this alternate treasury that he can spend money out of on whatever he wants.
And so what is Greenland really about?
So this, like what Venezuela was about, how that morphed, Greenland is morphing as well. Sometimes it's about the president didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he literally said that in his letter, and that was part of the reason. I hear people say, oh, there's resources there that can be mined. The most recent thing I hear is that it's necessary for the defense of our country, that if we're going to have our own Golden Dome, we need to have this piece of land to set things up on. My issue with that is whatever it costs to acquire Greenland, you can create an oil rig or a floating platform anywhere, offshore, somewhere in the ocean. I mean, Elon Musk is landing rockets backwards on floating platforms. We can have a missile defense that's mobile, and it's probably much more defensible that way. Like, can you imagine if the United States missile defense was like in one hole that we drilled in Greenland and everybody was watching because they knew that's why we were doing it? All you got to do is take that place out, and then you could take out our missile defense. You'd be much better to have platforms that move around. So I don't think it's, and by the way, we do have some of that equipment. I'm not sharing secrets to tell you that we have floating platforms in the Pacific. You can see them with the big white dome. I've visited on congressional trips, but you can see these from satellites, and people know what they are. I'm not giving anything away. So I don't think it's about the missile defense. I think it's about might makes right. I think it's about the president wants to have something to his name where he expanded, the United States while he was in office.
Okay, so that makes as much sense as anything, because we already have a agreement with Greenland. We can do military exercises there. We can have our military bases. We can have things there. So we already have it. So you're right. See me on tour. I'll be in Lansing, Milwaukee, Albuquerque, Houston, Dallas, Salt Lake City, Las Vegas. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. If you go anywhere else, you're going to pay more.
Right now, our new special report focuses on the newly revealed emails, specifically between Epstein, the deceased sex trafficker, and one of the most important people in Donald Trump's orbit, which matters now. Top Trump campaign and White House vet Steve Bannon. Bannon made 15 hours of video of Epstein for what he called a documentary, and this was in a key period, months leading up to what we now know was his arrest and then death.
The future is for the way women think.
The way women think.
That's correct.
Is that not a sop because of all the depravity you've done against young women? And your new sop is that their women's thinking is the future?
No, I've always believed that women would in fact be able to take over. I'm a firm believer and supporter of Time's Up.
He's a supporter of Time's Up, he claims there. Many parties may now be extra interested in that video series or evidence. Bannon says he will release a film early next year. Epstein would also advise Bannon on his own message and media during a period when Bannon had left the White House on bad terms with Trump. He was trying to burnish his voice as some kind of global populist.
Number one, with populism, I think you're going to have people with much more control of their sovereignty and their citizenship, okay? And I think in nationalism, what you're going to have is a collection of robust nations.
The emails do not reveal whether Bannon could see the irony, some might say hypocrisy, of backing one of the nation's most notorious auto-rich elites who advise him on the media around his so-called popular engagement. Now, much of Epstein's fortune remains a suspicious mystery. Indeed, we've talked to lawmakers who want to dig even deeper into his accounts and transfers, and how he got his money, and why J.P. Morgan issued required suspicious activity reports until after his death. But we do know he frequently pitched himself as a business and tax expert. And we saw that in his new emails when he revealed telling Bannon to respond to tax cut purposes of Trump's plans. That was other things to say 83% goes to the rich. Leading, he wrote, Bannon trying to talk about cash back. Wage inflation can't be the first focus. While those emails are dry economic talking points, some other emails have a gossipy, almost seriously sinister tone, except that we know how much serious bad stuff is going down. And Epstein seemed to use that type of banter with many. And there was plenty of media advice. In August 2018, Epstein says he changed his travel plan so he could watch Bannon on TV. Suggesting we already knew that this was coming up. We now see a new revealed emails that Jeffrey Epstein told Bannon, I took off early so I could land in time to watch. Jeff controlled the schedule. All good. Records show Epstein was 10 minutes more the real you. Apparently, Epstein felt credible. Unfortunately, we're discussing in these individual emails. Here's a little bit.
I think you're going to see a complete civil war in the Democratic Party that's going to clear the path for Donald Trump and Trump Party. The illegal immigration is nothing more than to try to suppress the women's working class and access. It's not the kids that see this. It's someone says people and CNN's camera within the platform. If you didn't pay attention to them,
This killing and the second-degree murder trials. Email showed that also focused on Bannon's appearance in that interview. Epstein writing, "You looked so clean cut next to him. I thought I turned on the figure skating channel by accident." Bannon replies, and this has come hither look. Jeffrey Epstein then replies in this newly exposed email, "Better than the usual." Take that as a negative. Ouch. He says it's the Soy Boy Network and that he wanted to be clean, not sloppy. Epstein replied, pulling your ways, Twinkie face. Now, Bannon may have been referring to how Donald Trump publicly knocked him as, quote, sloppy Steve. Here, back here, I should say. Bannon's appearance and dress has come up in public more than most operative. Pointed out all kinds of figures that they see when they're field, in town, and then take their heat, breathe, and in an email to journalist Michael Wolff, Epstein talks about seeing Bannon in London, saying he sees his relationship with Trump, who we see as the ascendant. Accept that. Then he writes Bannon's media tour scene with an eye toward an audience of one. He talks about Bannon's right-wing meetings in France and says these guys seem like idiots. He goes on to say Bannon, surrounded by his own thuggish lineage of dirty people and wacky blogger advisors, thrives precisely because the world of populism is so unprofessional, if not personal. That is Jeffrey Epstein's dead hand, his email, trashing the guy who was supposed ally. Window into how these people all think they're taunting each other, whether Bannon has noticed or found out that's his view. Not only as I mentioned that Jeffrey Epstein, the populist advisor, was on. Email show Epstein was a lot with author Michael Wolff. Let me show you something else as part of our report. There's an email that has not actually gotten much attention, and understandably, like I said, there's 20,000 views. But look at what happened kind of going inside real time when Epstein learned that all of this fancy talk media outreach to Wolff was on the key issue for him a failure. And Bannon too. He writes to Bannon, quote, "I've now seen some of Wolff's work. Mentions me and underage prostitutes." Let me repeat that. That's the thing they were working to quiet down, minimize, and lie about. Quote, "Mentions me," Epstein writes, "and underage prostitutes. You as the man behind and in front of the curtain. Lots of Steve quotes. Lots." There appears to see a problem with crying, "Oh, anything awful? Wish you hadn't done that. Why haven't you at all?" You rarely get this of view. Cluster or spin here, we just see two self-styled strategists admitting their whole media outreach strategy failed. This was Epstein's main vulnerability, underage sex crimes, boosted to new visibility in a book that spent about 2 months atop the best-seller list in the period of Trump mania in America. There were many people, politics and beyond, who were reading about Epstein for the first time in that context because of the book. Epstein then replied to Bannon's question, about the beach house purchase. Trump had a fight about that, saying, "Don't reach out to Michael." Well, if he meant Michael Wolff, it's a little late for that. the book is out. Epstein also detailed money laundering allegations against Charles Wolf, who, that's the author now, says Epstein also worried that his whole original Florida probe, that he ultimately got a sweetheart deal that was the first legal problem that set in motion the event. Wolf said Epstein seemed to have fear, paranoia, and belief in the came from Donald Trump reporting him to the cops and paid him to drop the gun. To be clear, that's the fear that he explained Epstein's anger to Trump. That's his belief. True, but Wolf says that's what Epstein believed, which fueled an anger you can see across the board. If you care about the truth, you do have to look at whether someone is so angry that it might change how accurate they are. But it was on display in Epstein's claims that more than the feds or Mueller was a big deal that year, he, Epstein, was the one able to take Trump down. 2019, Epstein and his lawyers were some of the highest priced top lawyers you could get, and I told you, the atoms of both parties. They all could see things were at a new level. In fact, 1 week before Epstein's 2019 arrest, as he pondered his own supposed leverage over President Trump, who oversaw the DOJ, and he knew was probably closing in, he was thinking about it. Even though he trashed Bannon, as I showed you, and his unprofessional populism, and his wacky blogging, and his weird security, and I'm paraphrasing what Epstein said. Of all people, reach out. Who did this sex trafficking reach out to? Donald Trump's guy, Steve Bannon, to talk about Trump. And he wrote, quote, "Now you can understand why Trump wakes up all the night sweating when he hears you and I are friends." It's quite a claim. And if it had come out only back then, it might have sounded like some possibly overblown assertion by a paranoid con man, sex trafficker, to his political buddy who was something of more of an outcast. Something many might just dismiss if you care about assessing the facts. But here we are, a long 7 years. Donald Trump's many failed efforts. Be on TV, that Donald Trump was more nervous about this than anything else. And now, for all these years later, that is pretty much how Donald Trump has been acting in public. Perhaps it is fitting that we only know about that claim because some of these Epstein files are already starting to come out. Federal officers have been caught shooting Americans to death on tape. These shootings were caught on video. That has changed everything. If these were just accounts or reports, who knows what people would actually know.
Guys, the idea of Jesus makes no sense. Jesus cannot be God. Jesus, at best, can only be a messenger of God, just like me. And the idea that Jesus is God makes no sense. Jesus was a human, just like me. God is God.
Professor Zhang is doing Dawa, bro. He doesn't even realize that he's giving Dawa, and he sounds convinced of it. Am I wrong? When I saw him read the Bible, or when I saw him read the Talmud, I did not see that he was convinced at all. The way he's talking about this with righteousness in his voice, this is different. Am I, obviously I'm biased, but right here, the way he's speaking, even the way he's repeating this, it sounds like he's convinced. The Islamic Golden Age, Professor Zhang, the Islamic Golden Age, the Caliphate, predictive history. Let's see what's going on.
Good morning. So today we do Islam. Some quick facts, some questions that we will look at today about the Islamic Golden Age. The first major question is, while Europe was in its dark ages, Islam was embarked on its golden age. So the first question is, how did this happen? Why was there this divergence? Second question we're going to look at is, what ended the Islamic Golden Age?
Ataturk,
Why
right?
would this period come to an end?
Ataturk.
The third question we're going to look at is, eventually, how did Christian Europe overtake the Muslim world? So those are three big questions we will look at in today's class. Some quick facts about Islam.
Damn, Steezy just texted me about to tear up. He said, "Hey brother, end of the fucking era. Hope I'll." Oh man, W Steezy, bro. We're gonna miss him over here. I love speech.
It is the world's second largest religion. Christianity has 2 billion people. Islam has 1 billion people. They are divided into 2 major sects. The Shia, which is based primarily in Iran, which is everywhere else. The light green are the Sunni people, and the dark green are the Shia people.
And I know Sunnis on the internet will often say like, "Oh, the Shia are far and stuff, and Shia are this, Shia are that." No, the Shia are the one who's standing up right now. The Shias are the one who just burned that ball statue in Iran. The Shias are the one that Israel wants America to go with so bad. So, I mean, are the Sunnis really? How much are the Sunnis doing to battle Israel right now? Yeah, Hamas, of course.
And as you can see, Islam extends all across Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia, and into India. The most populous Muslim country in the world is actually Indonesia. The Shia and the Sunni, the only major difference is that the Shia believe that only a direct descendant of Muhammad's grandson Ali can be the leader of the religion, whereas the Sunni do not believe this. Now, this is a religion of 1 billion people, so there are many different belief systems, many different sects.
Wait, sorry. Only direct descendants of Ali can what, be the caliph?
This can be the leader of the religion. Belief system, many different sects within this cosmology, but this is really the major difference.
There's other things
the Shia and the Sunni. So, Muslim means to submit yourself to God, to believe in God, and to submit yourself wholeheartedly to Him. And Islam was founded by a man named Muhammad, who the Muslims consider the prophet of God, the final prophet. And Jesus was the penultimate prophet. And the legend is that at age 40, Muhammad, who is a merchant or a trader, he has a vision. He goes to the cave and meditates.
So what was the word used for Jesus? Sorry for pausing. He said Jesus was the penultimate?
At age penultimate him, and reveals to him certain visions that he has memorized. And these visions become the basis for the holy book of the Muslim tradition called Quran. And
he skipped a lot of stuff. It wasn't specifically visions. It was from Angel Gabriel, who revealed the Quran. Yeah, he kind of skipped over some stuff, and I'm not sure if that terminology is the right way to say it. Right? Saying visions.
Hamas is not Shia. There you go.
I know.
And understanding the CIA white propaganda is not Comey.
Okay. CIA. Okay. There's so many things we got wrong there. I said Hamas is Sunni.
Understands that his mission is to be a messenger of God, to reveal the truth of God to the pagan society in the Arabian world. So it's basically Mecca. And when he tries to reveal the truth, he is met with a lot of resistance. And eventually he's forced out of Mecca. He goes to Medina. This is called the Hijrah in the Muslim tradition, the pilgrimage. And when he goes to Medina, he becomes the leader of the warring factions within Medina. primarily between the pagans, the Muslim tribes, and the Jewish tribes. So there are three major factions. And at this point, Muhammad has something called the Constitution of Medina, which promises religious freedom to everyone within the Muslim tradition.
So again, this constitution is super important for when they talk about how like, oh, there was always conflict in Israel-Palestine. It's like, no, when the Muslims were in charge in Spain, in Turkey, Muslims have always traditionally, it's literally doctrine to let people of the book coexist properly. That's not true. They spread that lie around like there's a bunch of hate and that, no, this is, when it's Muslim rule, so we're supposed to allow people to exist. Explains even Haibar. Should I put the notes? Where should I put my notes?
Okay? So ever since the beginning, and this is very important, the religion of Islam was a open, tolerant, and inclusive religion. And they have basically maintained this tradition for the next 1,000 years. Okay? Eventually, Islam will spread from the Arabian Desert to all across the Middle East. They will conquer the Persian Empire, and they will take at least half of the Byzantine Empire, including the richest parts of the Byzantine Empire, which are Syria and Egypt. They will also take Jerusalem, where they will build something called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And legend has it that Muhammad ascended to heaven from this place.
Huh?
Now, it's really important for us.
Whoa. Is that true? Wait, I spelled something wrong too? Also, this is not Al-Aqsa? That's true? It said Muhammad ascended to heaven from Al-Aqsa. You guys are saying this is not Al-Aqsa? It looks like it, right? Yeah.
Remember about this place is
Al-Isra, whoa. Al-Isra. Wal Miraj, what is this? So he didn't ascend from Al-Aqsa, he ascended from Al-Isra. No, this is the title for it. So this is what it's called. So did he get it wrong? The Night Journey. The Al-Aqsa is the mosque, yeah, I know.
Is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's still there in Jerusalem, and it is built on top of something called the Temple Mount. Remember, in the year 70, the Romans burned down the Second Temple of the Jews, the holiest site in the Jewish faith. And then the Muslims came and built the Al-Aqsa Mosque on top of the Temple Mount.
Bang!
Now, this is a very strange thing to do. If the Muslim tradition is open, inclusive, and tolerant, and Jews are welcomed into the tradition,
boring, guys. Let's get out of here with this boring Muslim shit. El Stream, El Porco.
Good boy, give me more money.
To build a mosque on top of the Jewish holy site, that doesn't really make any sense.
Bang!
And quite honestly, this has been a mystery to everyone.
Really?
No one has been able to figure this out, okay? So we will today attempt to solve one of the great mysteries in the Islam tradition. Why was the Al-Aqsa Mosque built on top of the Jewish Temple Mount? Okay? As I mentioned, the
Ali is the cousin. She is believed in 12 infallible imams.
We know.
Iran Una lived Sunnis in Iraq.
From the desert of Arabia, and they will conquer the Sasanian Persian Empire, and they will take at least half of the Byzantines, okay? They will try to lay siege on Constantinople, but remember that when we discussed the Byzantine Empire...
Sassanid, I've never even heard of this empire before. Sassanid Empire and half of Byzantine, aka the Roman Empire, right? Byzantine is Roman Empire. So Sassanid, what is this? Sassanid is like, where is this? It's west of India. That's okay.
Empire. Constantinople
Persian,
is designed as...
So Sassanid is like basically Persian and Byzantine is Roman. essentially, right? This is a good parentheses. Whenever I do parentheses for these notes, it's because it's my thing.
An impenetrable fortress. So there'll be 2 major sieges, and because of the walls, because of Greek fire, they will be unable to take the city.
Wait, so say it again, say this.
They will just and be claimed as an impenetrable fortress. So there'll be 2 major sieges, and because of the walls, because of Greek fire, they will be unable to take the city. The spread of Islam was lightning fast. In less than 100 years, they spread from the desert of Arabia, really the poorest place in this entire region, throughout most of the Middle East. Okay, so the dark green is where they started, and the light green is where they eventually expanded to. And remember, this process takes less than 100 years, which is remarkable. The Umayyad Caliphate was about 700. Okay, so let's just compare the Umayyad Caliphate with other empires, including the Tang. Okay, the Tang really is the height of Chinese civilization. But as you can see, the Umayyad Caliphate really is the largest empire in the world at this time. And eventually, they will also become the wealthiest empire at this time. There are 5 pillars of Islam. It is an extremely simple and clear religion. Wait,
chat, say what it is. Say what it is. So you need to take your Shahada, then there's prayer, there's Salah, then there is, I don't remember, number 3, number 4 is Ramadan
He's
fasting,
talking out of his
and then
backside.
pilgrimage.
Solomon built this place of worship, not a temple.
So, okay, so it wasn't a Jewish temple, it was just built by Solomon. Let's continue and see what he says.
Here with
Zakat, yes, charity.
Judaism.
Charity.
Okay, there are 5 pillars to the religion. First of all, you have to believe that Allah, God, is the only God.
La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah.
Okay? And this mirrors the Christian and the Jewish faith. You are required to pray at least 5 times a day, facing the direction of Mecca. You must give money to the poor. You must...
You're broke! The brokies, they want my charity, they want my zakat, but I've got a Bugatti. Why would I give zakat when I've got a Bugatti?
Fast during the holy days. The last thing is we must make something called a Hajj, which is a pilgrimage to the holy site in Mecca and perform rituals in Mecca. This is something that all Muslims must do, and you will have, of course, Muslims. They will save their entire lives just so that they can make this Hajj. Okay? The Muslim people are probably...
Hey, who's a Haji in the chat? Any Haji? I've only done Umrah, but I've never done, I need to get my Hajj done.
Most devout, the most religious people you will meet. They take their religion very, very seriously. This is the Hajj in Mecca. And I was actually in Saudi Arabia, and I tried to go there. And then I was told, only Muslims can go.
Yeah, get out of here, Jang. You can't come here. You can't come here. You gotta take Shahada to come here. And you know why they do? There's kind of a racial profile. They looked at him and like, you're not Muslim. You're not Muslim. I didn't get that. That didn't happen to me though. Maybe I had gore on my face.
And so I was at the train station. I was trying to buy a ticket to Mecca.
You can go to Medina, but you can't go to Mecca if you're not Muslim. That's it though. And I still recommend if you guys are not Muslim, check out Medina. Check out Medina. But show respect, man. Show respect.
They said, what's your Muslim name? Well, I'm not Muslim.
I don't have a Muslim name. You don't need to have a Muslim name to be Muslim.
Like, well, you can't go there. So I was disappointed. But it is a beautiful, absolutely one of the most beautiful rituals in the world today. Okay.
So now, not Muslim. I think he's just basically not. He believes in God, but doesn't really have a specific faith. Someone says Al-Sneeko bin Laden. Really, dude? No, come on. They're gonna a better name than that. Nick's in the chat. Let's pin his chats, bro. Well, if he's in the chat, why pin his shit? Oh, there you are. Dude, what the fuck is with these bots, man? You guys are always asleep. Nick, we're learning about the Islamic Caliphate. We're learning about the Islamic Empire, the Golden Age.
Summarize the introduction. There are three major mysteries to the history of Islam.
Really, dude? Look at this guy. Oh my God, you distracted me from the lesson. Mission log updated. Acquire Zamzam water. Yes, it's the purest water. It's the best water. What's with that zim zam zap zap water? Zip zap zappity doo. Try the water and tell me if it's good or not. It's delicious.
That we still haven't really solved.
And it's holy water.
Okay, the first mystery.
What about Operation Dunk a Baby in Holy Water? Operation Cleanse My Little
The British
Baby.
Mandate country didn't exist 3,000 years ago. W Real History Magazine.
Yeah, mission acquired. Dunk my baby. Dunk my sinful baby and cleanse it of original sin. Wah, wah, wah. Splash, splash, splash.
He is.
Zamzam added to inventory.
That they have something called the Constitution of Medina. We also know that Jews who are literate were part of the early movement of Islam. So why do we have no early records for the first 100 years?
Wait, what?
So what?
Jews were literate and part of the early movement of Islam. Did you guys know that?
Stole that shit.
I didn't know that. Jews are part of early Islam and were literate. Wow, is Nick gonna start laughing at the fact that Muslims weren't literate, that all the OG Muslims weren't literate? That's not funny, bro. Okay?
Why do we have no early records for the first 100 years? What? The first 100
Is that
years
true?
of the movement. That's very, very strange. Okay? Another strange question, another strange thing is, why would the Muslims go to war against two major empires, the Romans and the Persians? That's kind of suicidal. They didn't know they were going to win, so why did they go to war? Okay, that's the first mystery we'll solve today. Second mystery is, remember I said that the Shia and the Sunni have a major sectarian divide. The Shia believe that only the descendants of Muhammad's grandson Ali can be the caliph, the leader of the Muslim people.
Nick, who do you like better, the Sunnis or the Shia?
Well, the Sunnis don't. So why didn't Muhammad just name a successor and avoid civil wars that will erupt after his death? The third question is, why was Al-Aqsa built on the site of the Temple Mount? And this is still a problem today because a lot of conflict in the Middle East is driven by this problem where the Jews want to rebuild the temple, but to do so, they would have to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest site in the Islam world. So this is
okay, so Nick, you're Catholic. Who do you want to win for the Al-Aqsa Mosque? Do you want it to remain Muslim, or do you want the Jews to establish the third temple? All right, which one? And you say you prefer the Alawites? The Alawites are a secretive, ethno-religious group primarily based in Syria's coastal Latakia region who follow a distinct branch of... So who are these? Oh, Zoroastrian? Is this the Jewish sect? Secretive sect. Of course he picks the Fed branch, huh? Of course Nick picks the Frankist branch. Oh, I'm not trying to say anything bad. Hold on. I remember, what does Zoroastrian mean? I had it in my notes before. This is... Oh, the Persian sect. Okay, Zoroastrian was the Persian monotheistic religion. Ooh, 12% of them. Ooh, did I just insult some Syrians? Oh, wait. Are they the Houthis? Okay, let me just move on.
One question that is still relevant to us today.
So you want Al-Aqsa to be Catholic? Yeah, I guess that's gonna happen. Okay, I'm about to rage bait Nick right now because he made fun of Zamzam water. I'm about to rage bait Nick. Chat, ready? Ready? I'm about to drop a nuke right here. This is super. And wait, Nick, I'm gonna stop jester maxing and tap dancing because you're in the chat. This lesson's good. It'd be good. But this is bad. Huh? Oh, rage bait. Yeah. Watch up. He's gonna say something about MBS or something. But...
So we will also look at these three mysteries. And again, no one knows the answers to any of these three questions, and no one will ever know because so much of the historical record has been lost to us. But I will try to provide you with an explanation, okay? Given my understanding of the Islamic world, which, by the way, is extremely limited, okay? So please ask questions, please challenge me. I'm looking at you, Doug. Okay, all right.
He trolled them. Google what he wrote. Tell me, what did the Pope write on the wall? He did put his head on the wall, though. I don't go lie to you. He still put it on. Also, Nick, we've been doing, okay, this is not just a maxing, but we've been researching the Jesuits in the Catholic Church from these lessons as well. He definitely knows that the Jesuits were infiltrated by crypto Jews and were meant to infiltrate the Catholic Church, right? He knows about the truth about the Jesuit order. Come on.
Okay, so today's topic is Islamic Golden Age. So let's just have a quick look at the Golden Age. At the height of Islamic influence, there were a few centers of incredible cultural creativity. One such site is Bukhara, Uzbekistan. It's still there, guys. You can get on a plane, like Doug did, and visit it. It is an incredible city. I say that without actually having visited it, but I've heard terrific things from Doug. And you can go online as well and look at videos. But it is an incredible
Doug. Shout out
city.
to Doug.
And it shows you the creativity, the artistic creativity of the Islamic Golden Age. But the main cultural center.
The answers to these questions are well known. Research it independently later, LOL.
Yeah, well, this is the point of a lecture. You do your own research as well.
Golden Age is Baghdad. Okay? It's not so beautiful now, but back then it was really the center of the world. It's a round city, and it's a new city. This is a topographical map of the city. As you can see, it's surrounded by the Tigris and Euphrates, and it is a round city. Okay, one of the few round cities of that time.
This is like the Mecca for the Shias, right? In Baghdad, or where fuck? I should have paid attention there.
But back then, Baghdad.
What?
Of the Islamic Golden Age.
Okay,
Golden Age
this is
is
separate.
Baghdad.
Main cultural center of Islamic Golden Age is
Topographical map city. Okay, one of the few round cities of that time. Baghdad was capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, which started the Islamic Golden Age. The Abbasid Caliphate is the successor to the Umayyad Empire. Okay, and this is where the Abbasid Caliphate was. And this is what Muslims consider the height of their civilization. The thing that's really important for us to understand about the Abbasid Empire is that not only were they influential in the Muslim world, but they eventually would come to create the world that we live in today. Okay? So when we think of globalization, we think of this as a recent phenomenon. But look at the trade routes that the Abbasid Caliphate would create over its 300-year history. It connects the entire world. Okay? As I mentioned last semester, globalization has always existed to a certain extent in world history. But the Abbasids, the Muslim religion, would take these existing networks and make them a lot richer, a lot more dense, and a lot faster.
British Museum has manuscripts carbon dated during the life of the Prophet BTW.
Yeah, I've heard that too, because you said that the first 100 years are not documented. Okay, so the Abbasids used global networks and made them richer. Probably through trade, right?
You may not know this, but the Abbasids traded heavily with the Tang and the Song dynasties. In fact, it is the Abbasids who would initiate something called the Maritime Silk Road. The Overland Silk Road has existed for a long time, but it is the Abbasids who will eventually create the Maritime Silk Road.
Silk Road sounds familiar. Wasn't that a torrent website, Silk Road?
And it will bring China into the world to a greater extent than ever before. Okay? So this is the trade. The main center for cultural production in the Muslim world is something called the House of Wisdom. And its model is the Library of Alexandria.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's something called the House of Wisdom.
House of Wisdom. The model is called Main Center Production, called House of Wisdom. So many notes.
Library of Alexandria.
The model's called the Library of Alexandria. Oh my God, sorry.
Okay? Remember last semester we discussed the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. And its mission was to be the first university to take all Hellenistic knowledge and culture and systemize it for dissemination. And the House of Wisdom was doing the same thing, where it would take all knowledge and culture within the Islamic world and outside the Islamic world and systemize and standardize it for mass dissemination. Okay?
Systemize.
So, the things that they were doing were they were taking Hindu numerals. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so he was saying, Hellenistic, to systemize Hellenistic. Okay, so he's going to talk about algebra, right? Mass dissemination. What's the definition of dissemination? I don't know this. Dissemination definition. The action or fact of spreading something. Okay, dissemination.
We still use them today. They took them from India, and again, they standardized it and disseminated this knowledge. They took works from Aristotle and Plato, translated into Arabic and Persian, and then disseminated it. All the math in the Greek world and in the Persian world and in the Hindu world, and then they would systemize it and then build on top of it.
Yeah, that's me.
This is a rendition of the House of Wisdom. This is where the three major creative civilizations would meet and exchange ideas, right? The Greeks, the Jews, and the Persians. They would also take ideas from the Indian tradition and the Chinese tradition as well. The major literature or literary work that we still have today from the Islamic Golden Age is the Arabian Nights, okay? Scholars have looked at this very closely, and most scholars believe that these stories are actually from India. Also, what's important for us to understand is that at the time this was translated, it was actually not that popular within the Muslim world. Poetry, philosophy, mathematics, science were considered the high arts. This was considered low arts. What we have today is that the Europeans would discover this centuries after the Islamic Golden Age, and they fell in love with these stories, and that's why we still have them today. And Disney movies are based on this as well. Okay, so let's look at some of the major thinkers.
So it was Aladdin
and philosophers.
Probably Aladdin and this stuff was based off of Arabian Nights?
Of the Islamic Golden Age.
Okay, Rumi from 1207 to 1273. Major thinkers of Islamic Golden Age.
So at this time in world history, we don't differentiate between philosophers, poets, scientists, mathematicians, okay? All intellectuals engage in all these different fields, okay? So the one most famous is Rumi, who is Persian, a poet, a mystic, a philosopher. Ibn Sina is probably the most famous intellectual of the Islamic Golden Age.
Ibn Sina was the most famous of Islam. Oh god, this is so... Ibn Sina, 980 to 1037, most famous intellectuals on that.
His books, his works were admired in Europe, okay? So the Islamic philosophy was being exported to Europe, where they would have a major influence on many of Europe's major thinkers. You may have heard a man named Leonardo Fibonacci. You should have heard of him in math class. Well, at this particular time in history, he was going to Baghdad to study from the leading mathematicians of this time and taking their ideas and importing them all back to Europe. Okay, so This is Ibn Sina, and the Latin name is Avicenna. Ibn Rushd, Averroes, is also a major intellectual at this time. Just to show you how influential these two were in Europe, let's look at Dante's Divine Comedy. So Dante is in hell, and there in limbo, he's meeting the most influential, the greatest philosophers in human history who have influenced European civilization. Obviously, he's going to name Socrates and Plato, okay? But guess what? He also names Averroes and Avicenna, okay? So Dante is acknowledging the debt Europeans have to Islam. This is important for us.
Sorry, what's the real name? Avicenna, is that Ibn Rushd?
So,
so is this how Avicii got his name? It sounds Italian, but that's how you say it in Latin. Move your fucking hand.
Dante is acknowledging the debt Europeans have to Islam. This is important for us because the Muslim intellectual influence on Europe has been whitewashed from history. This is something you do not learn in school usually. But without Islam, you can make the argument that Europe could not have modernized, okay? And later on, I'll explain why that's the case. Omar Khayyam is also another famous intellectual, poet, philosopher.
I can't write that.
This man, Musa al-Hazami, is considered the father of modern-day algebra.
Okay, I knew this. People always talk about this, about the importance of algebra. Musa and Musa obviously named after the Prophet. 780 to 850 algorithmy. So are these the Latin names that they were, or okay?
Musa al-Hazami is considered the father of modern-day algebra. His Latin name is algorithmy, okay? And if this sounds familiar, it's because his name will give us the modern English word algorithm. Both algebra and algorithm were originally Arabic words. All right, so most of the math you're studying in school actually originated during the Islamic Golden Age. This name is Al-Hazan, and he invented physics, basically optics. Again, extremely influential. And again, these ideas will be imported back to Europe, and they will become the basis of the Renaissance. Okay? Al-Zahari is the father of surgery. At this time in world history, the very best hospitals are in the Islamic world, by far. This is the first 24-hour hospital in Baghdad. What's also amazing about these hospitals is that if you are poor and could not pay, you could receive medical treatment for free. That was just part of the faith. All poor were treated with great charity.
We still don't even have that today.
During the Islamic Golden Age.
You missed an important one, dude.
This is Al-Qarawiyyan. Again, guys, I don't speak Arabic. I'm probably butchering the name.
You said it right.
But it was founded in 859 in Fez, Morocco. This is important because this is actually the first degree-granting university in the whole world. It's still there, guys. Okay, this is the oldest university in the world. What's also amazing is it was founded by a woman who inherited a fortune from her father, and she spent all her money on building this university. All right.
Wow.
Reconstruction. If you ever get a chance to go to Fez, it is the most amazing city.
I want to go to Fez.
It's absolutely stunning.
Morocco is an amazing country as well.
Hey, that's a great sign, man. That's where I'm supposed to go visit on my IRL tour. Again, I've been to the capital. Fucking losing my. I've been to Marrakech, and I don't want to look at the chat. The capital. Oh my God, it starts with a C. Casablanca.
Okay, so 1258, the Islamic Golden Age. officially came to an end, or that's what scholars believe. And the reason why is in 1258, the Mongols will sack Baghdad and they will burn all the books, okay? Or that's what the legend tells us. Baghdad had a thriving bookstore culture, and this was unique in the world. Intellectuals or the elite, they spent a lot of their resources on buying books, and they imported paper from China. They learned how to make paper from China, so books were extremely popular within Baghdad, okay, especially among the elite. As well, because of the Quran.
Why are you guys saying W Genghis Khan, W Mongols? They destroyed all the books.
It's necessary for the elite to be literate. It was demanded of you.
I don't read. Books are gay. I've got to fucking fight and drive my Bugatti. I've got to conquer. I gotta get my name remembered. Books are gay. Reading's stupid. Doop-de-doo. I'm reading a book. Doop-de-doo.
To be literate. And the Quran will also standardize Arabic and make it the official language of the entire Muslim world. Okay? But just because the Islamic Golden Age ended does not mean that creativity stopped in the Muslim world. This is Ibn Khaldun, and he is considered the father of social science, okay? Economics, quantitative history, politics. This man invented a lot of these disciplines. He is most famous for his idea of asabeya, which just means social cohesion. So he was actually the first to systematically think about grand history. Why do civilizations rise and why do they decline? And his
he said social cohesion.
Conclusion is that the borderlands are able to conquer empires because the borderlands, the people there, have asabaya, which just means that they are more egalitarian, more free, more cohesive as a culture. Whereas the empire, because it's so big, it loses a lot of cohesion. Okay? And again, Ibn Khaldun is a major inspiration for the history that I try as well.
Okay.
From 1300 to 1700,
oh my God,
the world will be dominated by three major empires: the Ottomans, the Safavids in Iran, and the Mughals in India. They are collectively known as the gunpowder empires.
Ottoman is still the caliphate,
what's amazing is, since its inception...
if you said that the Islamic Empire ended at 1258, then how come the Ottoman Empire was still dominant for the next 400 years?
622, up until the year 1700, the Islamic religion dominated the world. And so the question for us is, why was that the case? How did Islam overtake Europe and overtake Christianity?
Let's go.
Okay, that is a mystery and question for us today that we will look at. Okay, so let's go back to the three mysteries that I introduced earlier. Why do we have no written records? Even though we know that the people within the movement, Jews and Christians, knew how to read and write. Okay, that's the first question. Second question is, why didn't Muhammad name a successor? The third question is, why was the Al-Aqsa mosque built on top of the Temple Mount? Okay, so
he wrote these three questions down.
This is a paradox because Jews were an extremely important part of that early movement, right? So why would you offend the Jews like Okay, to understand what happened, okay, let's go back in time. And we know that in 622, Muhammad goes to Medina, and that's what starts the Islamic movement. But let's just go over to Jerusalem and figure out what's happening there. And once we do that, then we're able to figure out what's going on in that world. It turns out that in 622, there's a major war going on between the two major powers at this time, the Persians and the Byzantines. And it is a deadly war that is engulfing the entire Middle East. Okay? So this is from Wikipedia, all right? Now, guys, never trust Wikipedia as an historical source, but it's useful for us to understand what contemporary historians think, okay? So this is from Wikipedia. The Jews have aligned themselves with the Persians. Why? Because, first of all, the Romans controlled Jerusalem, and in the year 70, the Romans burned down their temple, and in the year 135, the Romans expelled the Jews from Jerusalem, their holy city. So ever since then, the Jews, obviously they want revenge, but they also want to return to...
Sorry, and then what year did he expel? 135, they expelled Jews. Romans expelled Jews. 5 AD, Romans expel Jews.
The holy city and rebuild the
Second
temple. And with the Persians, they saw this as an opportunity because historically, the Persians and the Jews have gone along very well. Okay? So,
hey, wait.
The
Persians and Jews get along extremely well? PBD and Adam Sosnick. Okay, I'm a numbers guy. That explains the Valuetainment podcast. The Persians and the Jews getting along.
Help the Persians take Jerusalem and push out the Byzantines. But when that happens, the Christians in Jerusalem, they revolt and they force out the Jews. And then the Byzantines, under the emperor Heraclius, they return Jerusalem in the First Crusade. Okay, this is the beginning of the idea of crusade. And they retake the city.
God, so much information. Okay, okay, hold on.
Under the emperor Heraclius, they return Jerusalem.
Emperor, oh my God. Emperor. I know if you guys, this is fast, but this is so much information. Emperor Heraclius of Romans, Byzantines of Romans, same thing. Return to Jerusalem. Is that the First Crusade? Is it the first one?
In the First Crusade, okay? This is the beginning of the idea of crusade. And they retake the city. And then what they do is they expel the Jews from Jerusalem, obviously, but then they start to kill a lot of Jews.
Oh, okay? No, that's not funny.
And they force these Jews outside of Jerusalem.
Well, that's bad.
So now these Jews have nowhere to go. But there's something called the Constitution of Medina in Arabia, right?
And then we get
there is a prophet, Muhammad, who is promising religious tolerance for all. All can practice their faith in peace, right? So it makes sense for a lot of these Jews, not all of them, but a lot of them, to join this early movement. What's important for us to understand is that at this point, Muslim, is not a distinct religion, okay? All these people are called believers because Muhammad sees himself as the final messenger of God, okay? Abraham was the first, then you had Moses, then you have Jesus, and now Muhammad is the very last. So all these three different traditions, the Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Islam tradition, in the beginning, were all just one religion, one idea, which is to bring God to earth and make everyone understand that God is the true God, okay? To create monotheism on earth. That's the origin of this.
And the Muslims are the only one to get it right, huh? Monotheism, not three.
New religion of Islam. Okay? And this is the Constitution of Medina, which is in the Quran, and which we know to be historically true. Maybe not the
Constitution of Medina?
Constitution of Medina, which
the Constitution of Medina
is in the Quran, and which we know to be historically true. Maybe not the wording, okay? But we know that this existed. And these people were called believers. And also, this would also include people who believe in Zoroastrianism, okay? Because Zoroastrianism was also a monotheistic religion. So, so the Constitution of Medina was an attempt to unite all monotheistic religions into one single tradition that fought for God.
Okay. I really want to learn about Zoroastrianism. So it's monotheistic too. What do they believe? Do they believe in mysticism? What is that religion at all? It's disappeared, right? Doesn't exist, or some Iranians still practice it?
Also, what's really important for us to understand is not only is there all this persecution going on against Jews and against Christians and against Zoroastrians, okay? But also, this is a apocalyptic age where all three traditions believe this was literally the end of the world. If you were Jewish, you believed in a final battle called Armageddon between the Messiah, who would lead you, and against two enemies called Gog and Magog.
Gog and Magog.
Okay, guess what? The Persians and the Romans were fighting each other. So you could easily interpret this to mean the Persians and the Romans were the Gog and Magog enemy. In your tradition,
Muhammad Ajab said in an interview a couple months back, he thought that Gog and Magog didn't happen yet. It probably didn't happen yet, right? And that Gog and Magog could be the Chinese Empire against...
this would be the final battle. This is when Jerusalem is most threatened. Well, the Romans, the Byzantines, just took your city and mastered your people. So in the Jewish tradition, this is the end of days. This is the final battle. And the Messiah would emerge to lead you to final victory. And that person, a lot of Jews could interpret to be Muhammad, okay? So for the Jews, this is the end of days. But for Christians, okay, they also believe this is the end of days because there were final battle between the Antichrist and the Messiah.
And Jesus.
Okay? The Antichrist is obviously Heracles, who is the emperor of the Byzantines, who've been persecuting Christians for a long time. Remember, the official religion of the Byzantines is the Holy Trinity. But most Christians didn't believe it.
Holy shit, there's so much info. Okay, Antichrist is obviously Heracles? What?
Of the Byzantines is the Holy Trinity. But most Christians didn't believe of the Byzantines is the Holy Trinity. But most Christians didn't believe in the Holy Trinity, and they were persecuted for the refusal to believe in the Holy Trinity. Okay? So for Christians, this is also is the Holy Trinity. But most
official religion of the Byzantines was the Holy Trinity. Romans was Holy Trinity, but what?
Christians didn't believe in the Holy Trinity.
Most Christians didn't believe in.
And they were persecuted for the refusal to believe in the Holy Trinity. Okay? So for Christians, this is also the final battle. Zoroastrians believe in a final battle between good and evil. Okay? So this is an apocalyptic age where everyone believes this is it, the final battle. Muhammad is saying to everyone, guys, we're all one people, united by God. And we are here to fight for him. Okay? And this is very appealing for people.
The GOAT.
So the best evidence for my argument is actually the Quran. Okay? So again, we don't have any written records of Muhammad. But what we do believe is the Quran. It is a collection of many of Muhammad's original sayings that have been redacted over time. Okay? So let's look at some passages from the Quran to better understand how Muhammad...
He believes in the Quran as a source? Like why? I want to hear him logically explain why he's not Muslim.
Was thinking and what he was preaching to the Christians, the Jews, and the Zoroastrians. All right.
And why is Zoroastrianism not considered an Abrahamic faith?
Oh, people of the book. By this he means both the Christians and the Jews, okay? Yeah. Why do you argue about Abraham when the Torah and the gospel were not revealed until after him? Will you not reason? Okay, so he's saying, why are we arguing about scripture? Why are we arguing about belief? When we all acknowledge that Abraham is our forefather, okay? And Abraham came before the Bible, it came before the Old Testament and the New Testament. So what's the argument? Here you argue about things you know, but why do you argue about things you do not know? Allah knows and you do not know. Abraham was neither a Jew nor a Christian, but he was a monotheist, a Muslim. Okay? So this is what Muhammad is saying. A Muslim is someone who believes in God as the only true God. And that includes...
Wait, so wouldn't this be hadith? If it's from Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Quran is all the words of Allah. O people of the book. This is Quran, not hadith. I know, but he's citing it as something that Muhammad is saying, peace be upon him. This is coming from God, not from Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So he got this wrong. Yeah, he's wrong. You're retarded. He's wrong. Okay.
Jews and Christians.
O people of the book, why do you argue about Abraham when the Torah and the gospel were not revealed until after him? Will you not reason? Here you are, you argue about things you know. Why do you argue about things you do not know? Allah knows and you do not know. Abraham was neither a Jew nor a Christian, but he was a monotheist, a Muslim, and he was not of the polytheists. The people most deserving of Abraham are those who follow him and his prophet and those who believe. Allah is the guardian of the believers. He didn't know that Quran is from God. So I think he got it wrong.
And he was not of the polytheists. Okay? Let's also look at Muhammad responding to the Christian tradition. Okay, remember in the Christian tradition, a lot of conflict arises from a debate over the nature of Jesus and his relationship with God. Okay, and what Muhammad is saying is, guys, the idea of Jesus makes no sense. Jesus cannot be God. Jesus, at best, can only be a messenger of God, just like me. And the idea that Jesus is God makes no sense. Jesus was a human, just like me. God is God. He would not represent himself through a human. Okay, and so let's look at what he says.
Allahu Akbar.
They disbelieve those who say Allah is the Messiah, the son of Mary. But the Messiah himself said, Messiah is Jesus, right? O children of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. He's making a clear distinction. God is my God. I'm not God, I'm not his son, he is God. Whoever associates others with Allah, Allah has forbidden him paradise, and his dwelling is the fire. The wrongdoers have no saviors.
Subhanallah.
All right? If you believe that Jesus is God, you are committing heresy against the true God.
Sure.
There can only be one God. There can't be two gods together.
Mm-hmm.
They disbelieve those who say Allah is the third of three, but there is no deity except the one God. If
Facts.
they do not refrain from what they say, a painful torment will befall those among them who disbelieve.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's saying, this is very important, is that
Professor Zhang is doing dawah, bro. He doesn't even realize that he's giving dawah, and he sounds convinced of it. Am I wrong? When I saw him read the Bible, or when I saw him read the Talmud, I did not see that he was convinced at all. The way he's talking about this with righteousness in his voice, this is different. Am I obviously I'm biased, but right here, the way he's speaking, even the way he's repeating this, it sounds like he's convinced.
Muhammad is saying the Holy Trinity, the idea is just nonsense. They disbelieve those who say Allah is the third or three. Allah cannot be a fraction of anything. He is the one and only. Okay?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
In our time, and we hear this, we don't really have emotional reaction.
There we go.
Place yourself back in their time, the year 622. Most Christians are being persecuted for refusing to accept the Holy Trinity
so they became
as
Muslim.
Scripture. Because it makes no sense. We discussed this in class. Okay? And now, but if you say it makes no sense, you could be killed. Okay? You'll be persecuted for sure. And now, Muhammad is saying, you guys were right all along. You should have believed in yourself all along. You were right all along, okay? So let's use an analogy. Let's just say, for example, like the world government. Okay, we have a world government, and for whatever reason, the world government tells us the sky is red. And you're like, wait a minute, I know blue and I know red, and the sky is blue. But if you say the sky is blue, you will be put in jail. You are not allowed to say the sky is blue. And then you have people, teachers like me, telling you, the reason why you believe the sky is blue and not red is your eyes lie to you. You cannot trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your eyes are defective. That's a problem with human beings. We can't trust what we see. Okay? And you have to go through life believing the sky is red, even though you know in your heart it's blue. But then one day, someone like a teacher says to you in class, actually guys, we've been lying to you all along, the sky is blue. Imagine your sense of relief and empowerment and liberation when someone with
Brother
authority
Sheikh
actually
Jang!
tells you.
Sheikh Jang! Subhanallah, brother! Sheikh Jang! Sheikh Professor Jang! Mashallah, Professor Chinese! Okay, sorry.
What you've always believed. Okay? That's what Muhammad is doing. Muhammad is confirming to everyone that what they believed, what they knew about God was right all along. Okay. So Muhammad's final message to the people is God is God and only God, and He is everywhere. And you can see Him, you can touch Him, because He's everywhere. And as such, you can feel Him. And
that's not true, right? No, I don't. That's not true. He got this one wrong. God, nah.
You can touch Him because He's everywhere.
No. His creation is everywhere, but yeah, again, it's.
And as such, you can feel Him, and He can be inside of you.
No. Sheikh, brother, astaghfirullah. He was doing so well. He's tripping right now.
Okay? And so this idea will actually occupy most of the Quran. Okay? And this is what he says. With Him are the keys of the unseen. None knows Him except He, and He knows everything on land and in the sea. Not a leaf falls, but He knows it. And there is not a single grain in the darkness of earth, nor is there anything wet or dry, but is in the clear record. All right? God is everywhere. You can see and touch Him in everything.
No. How did he get that from? How did he get that from this verse? With Him are ways of the unseen. None knows them except He, and He knows everything in the land and sea. Not a leaf falls, but He knows it. There's not a single grain in the darkness of earth, nor is there anything wet or dry, but isn't clear. Yeah, he's talking about creation, but that doesn't. He's not understanding that creation does not mean that it is God, literally.
Okay? And so, in other words, what's happening is that Islam...
You can't, you can't, he hasn't spent time, really, he's a history guy. He's a geopolitics guy, he's an analysis guy, but he's not a faith guy. You can't really blame him for not knowing this stuff. It's just his misinterpretation. And again, seeing him get this wrong is important to take everything else in these notes with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, he's not perfect. He's just a professor, and he's obviously putting his bias on all this information. So a reminder that all this information I have, how many pages of notes? 40 pages of notes from all of his lectures so far. You can't take anything he's saying as complete fact.
Is really the first monotheistic religion in the modern sense. Okay? When you think of monotheism, we actually think of the Islamic version of monotheism. All right. So, what's the power of Islam?
Oh, no, you know who's calling right now? That call noise, that was Sheikh Uthman coming to go and correct him.
Islam is, the power and beauty comes from how Islam is able to unite two major intellectual traditions in the world. The first is paganism, right? Remember the Vikings? The Vikings told stories, they acted out rituals. And therefore, there was an intimacy, concreteness, and interconnectedness to paganism that made us feel happy and good. Okay? It made us understand the world. It made us feel as though we could influence the world. That's the power of paganism. But Islam is doing the same thing by making God concrete. Okay? You can feel God. God is everywhere. He knows everything.
No. Well, yeah.
But what Islam is also doing is he's seeing the simplicity, clarity, and absoluteness of monotheism. Okay? Monotheism is nice because with monotheism, everything becomes clear to you. Right? Okay, there's one God, therefore I just have to follow Him. I just have to believe in Him. There's like a million gods in paganism. And so it's unclear what you should do or how you should relate to this million gods. But here in monotheism, the relationship between God and you, it's very, very clear. Okay? So in other words, Islam is a major intellectual revolution in human history. And we have forgotten this because Islam, the idea, has embedded itself into modernity itself. Okay? Does that make sense?
Well, it always has. Islam always existed. This is the idea of the innate feeling, I forgot the word, but the propensity that all humans have to worship one God. It existed before Islam. Islam existed before Islam, if that makes sense. Everybody is born with this. Fitra, correct. Fitra.
All right. So, what I will show you over the course of the semester is that Islam really is the proto-modernity. When we say that modernity began in Europe, we forget that Islam really built the basis for modernity. Okay? All right? So, fulfillment of the law and prophets. It's completing the story in the Bible. It's bringing God to the people. You can now touch God. You can now know God. That's the beginning of the idea of Protestantism, okay? And create heaven on earth. And this is the idea of science. Why do we use science? To make the world better. Because God wants us to make the world better. All right? So a lot of the ideas that will underpin modernity, that God can be in us, and that God expects us to make the world better.
Okay.
It's already there in the beginnings of Islam. And that's why we will have the Islamic Golden Age, because they are propelled by their devoutness to the one true God. Is this clear to you guys?
When I put things in parentheses, it's my addition, not his, for the most part. I know he's adding Christian belief to Islam, the belief that God is within, God is love. No, God is God, actually. God is not us, God is not the earth. God is God and is separate and is greater than his creation, because only something greater is capable of creation. And that's why God is worthy of worship, because he's greater than his creation. But that's this belief that it's within, and this is kind of like a Buddhist. I mean, he's Eastern, he's Chinese, so he's gonna naturally believe, I guess, like Asian Fitra, in a sense. Obviously that's incorrect, but Asian Fitra is like Buddhism, and it's within, and it's meditative, and God is all, and God, it's no, God is greater. God is the greatest.
Any questions so far?
I'm wrong? How am I wrong? Are these not Buddhist instincts? Yeah, but that's why I might even write this as a note. Jang believes God is within. We can touch God because I'll say Eastern bias. This is what a lot of Eastern faith, All
right, so let me really quickly answer the three mysteries. Okay, the first problem is, why were there no written records? The answer is, first of all, Islam marks a revolution. Okay? It is overturning the social order. The problem, though, is that eventually Islam will become the social order. So you obviously don't want to paint Muhammad as a revolutionary. Okay? That's the first problem. Muhammad represented a revolution against the social order. All right, that's the first thing. Second thing is that we know that his early followers, the companions, were all wiped out.
Why could he not be considered a revolutionary? Peace be upon him.
Please mention these corrections to Jiang during your interview with him. Much love.
No, I definitely will. Why would he not be considered a revolutionary? It's just because he represents a revolution against the social order? Isn't that can 100% be considered a revolutionary? Maybe he continues.
They're all dead. They all died. The official history says that they died in military conflicts. But here's the amazing thing about early Islam history. We don't have that much evidence of military conflict. between the Arabs and the Persians and the Byzantines. We don't. There's maybe one city, Caesarea, where there was a siege, but we think that a lot of the conquest happened organically, or maybe their enemies surrendered to them rather than fight them. Okay, and that's why I would say it's a revolution. It's not a conflict. It's not a conquest. It's a revolution where ordinary people were so disgusted with the current leadership that they opted for.
Oh, he emailed me back for the interview. I'm not gonna leak it, but he said, yes, okay, we could do it. Oh, on Sunday? Oh, we could do it on Sunday. Yes, let's go. Sunday works for me. I look forward
I think the missing link for Jiang is the hadith, which encodes the history and events.
I think the missing link for the Jiang hadith. Oh, yeah. And it is missing. Yeah, it's missing. Yes, he wants to do Sunday. Well, he wanted to do much later in March, but I want to do it. You know me, man. I work quick. I'm not going to ask him for Discord. I will ask him for Zoom. Does Zoom work for you? I look forward to it. I'll tell him we're watching your lecture now. We're watching your lecture on Islamic Golden Age now. Dope, bro. Okay, so let's, I see it's free Sunday, Monday, 9 a.m. Beijing time. What is that in Eastern? Oh, 8 p.m. Eastern. Fucking perfect. Let's do it. Sunday, 9 a.m. Beijing. 8 p.m. EST works for me. Thanks for replying so quickly. Does Zoom work for you? We're watching your lecture on Islamic Golden Age now. I want to send him a photo of the chat. Say yeah, I'm gonna attach a photo to this email. Say, okay, how do you spell his name right? Tip him. Shut up, bro. I'm gonna cancel the collab if you guys keep saying tip him. Professor, how do you say it? Jiang, right? Oh no, his name is definitely here. Oh yeah. So here's his name. It's not leaking. It's probably public anyway. Go. I'm gonna pin this in chat and then repin the TTS after. Go say W. Shukin Jiang. Error. Pin. Why can't I fucking pin the message? No, say his full name. Say his full name. Say his full name. Well, this is gonna be dope. I'm actually looking forward to this collab so much. Could someone pin my chat? Am I banned from my own chat? Don't say Jackie Chan, you racist piece of shit. You racist. Am I banned from my chat? Why can't I type anything? Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay. W. Zhukin Chang. Send a photo. There we go. Thanks, guys. Oh my God, open camera. Open. Let's go. I'm gonna send him this video. Hello. All the way in Beijing. We look forward to the interview. Loving the lecture so far. It's been extremely insightful. We've been taking a lot of notes and watching almost every single day. See you soon. They're very excited. There was a Jackie Chan thing in there, but whatever. He knows the internet. He knows the internet. Okay, hold on. Let me go send. Hold on. I'm just sending this email real quick. Give me a second. Almost done. Attach the video. Let's go, bro.
We're so disgusted with the current leadership that they opted for a new belief system. Okay? The problem, though, is that once you amass power and it's a coalition, the question then is, who's now in charge? So for the next 100 years, there'll be a series of civil war to determine who will be in charge, okay? Those early companions were probably purged. The word we use is purge. They're wiped out. including the Jews and the Christians. We know for a fact that...
Oh my God, I sent the wrong video. I sent him a blueberry simp. Oh my, I sent him a blueberry simp edit. I'm joking, I didn't. Would that imagine? Wait, I want to see. Actually, let me double check and see if I sent the right one. Yeah, this one.
Hello, all the way in Beijing. We look forward to the interview. Loving the lecture so far.
Okay, good. W Glaze, right?
In the early days of Islam, Jews and Christians were part of a hierarchy. There's a man named St. John of Damascus who was very famous, and he was a leading official in the Umayyad Caliphate. Okay, we know that as a fact, but eventually they were purged from the system. And if they're purged, what happens is they'll also purge the history, okay? Because if these are the companions of Muhammad, Christians and Jews, then they're legitimate. They're more legitimate than you are. So therefore, they have to purge that history. Okay? But not only that, and the third thing is that there'll be a series of continuous civil wars among the Arabs in order to determine who will be the caliph. And obviously, they want to disguise this history. They want to disguise this history of civil conflict, okay? So the first 100 years, it was revolutionary, but it was also very tumultuous and bloody. And that's why they had to disguise the first 100 years of Islamic history, right? Does that make sense to you guys? And again, this is my explanation. I could be wrong, all right? There could be other explanations. Yeah?
Throw in another idea.
Yep.
I think what you said doesn't contradict this either. But
Right. Can this nerd stop talking?
For us to imagine is that a culture would actually record its history with historiography. It seems to us as a given, right?
Yep.
Chinese culture, official historians going back for 2,200 years, and so on, right? The Greeks had their ancient historians, the Romans had their ancient historians, but not every culture has its historians.
You could hear his nerd voice. It's always one of these nerds. Like, what about the? Shut up. Let him teach.
The Persians didn't write history.
Right.
The Indians didn't write history, and I'm guessing the Arabs didn't have a tradition of writing down their history either, right? And so that this would actually be recorded in the sense that we can write with it.
Right. That is a great point. Thank you, Doug. So Doug's point is that...
Oh, Doug is gassed up because he shouted him out for going to Morocco. That's why Doug feeling himself. Doug feeling himself. He was going to start yapping. It was always a kid like that in class. Like the teacher says, "Oh, you got an A on this," and starts talking more.
The idea of history comes to us from the Greeks and the Romans, who wrote everything down. Okay, but as Doug says, there are many cultures who do not believe or do not have institutions to write down history. We sort of take it for granted today, but back then, it was actually a pretty rare thing to actually want to write down your history. Okay, so a good reason why is that if you write down the history, you're also constrained by the history, right? And that's why a lot of empires chose to not write down the history. Okay, so thank you. Yeah. All right. Second question is, why didn't Muhammad name a successor? Again, this is my theory. But if it's the end of days, if it's the end of the world, you don't need to name a successor because God's coming, right? What's the point? In fact, if you name a successor, then you're admitting defeat, right? What Muhammad is saying to everyone is that every of your traditions, Jewish, Christian, Zoroastrian, are right. It's the end of days. God is coming. There'll be peace on the world. Therefore, we will no longer need leaders. You won't need Muhammad. I'm the last prophet, man. Okay?
As a Moroccan, Doug is no longer welcome in Morocco.
Get him out. Deport him. Get Moroccan ice and kick him out of Fez.
That's why I think he didn't name a successor. But there could be other explanations, okay? Do you have another explanation? Okay. The third is, why did they build the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount? And this explanation is going to be very controversial, okay? So the Jews support the Persians in the war against the Byzantines on the condition that the Persians would allow them to return to Jerusalem, but also on the condition that the Jews would be allowed to rebuild their temple, which is exactly what Cyrus the Great did right? Cyrus the Great is called the Messiah in the Bible. He's the only foreign leader called the Messiah in the Bible because Cyrus the Great allowed them to rebuild the temple. Okay? So what I'm saying is this. Al-Aqsa Mosque was originally the third temple. It is what the Arabs promised the Jews for the support. But over time, as these purges happened, as the civil conflicts happened, then the Arabs needed to consolidate their authority. So they turned the third temple into the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay, that's what I think happened. If you go into I don't have time to go into the very detailed history of how the Al-Aqsa Mosque was built, but it was a process that took about 200 years. And it's very possible during these 200 years, intentions changed. Okay? So again, I know this is an extremely controversial statement, but I think that's what happened. Originally, it was meant to be the third temple. But then, over time, the Arab leaders changed their minds and thought to themselves that if we do this, then we make the Jews into a very powerful political entity within the Muslim world. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Right? Okay. Again, like, these are my explanations. It's my interpretation. This is not historical fact. All right.
All this darkness can't outshine light. We're in a spiritual crisis. We need to be light.
True. First question is, why did Islam enter its golden age and Christian Europe enter its dark age? Second question is, why did Islamic golden age end? Third question is, how did Christian Europe overtake the Muslim world?
Jiang confused many of us. Can we watch an Islamic viewpoint so we understand the truth?
After these three questions, all we have to do is compare and contrast.
I find it more interesting, to be honest, to watch people that aren't Muslim talk about these. I find it more interesting from that lens because there's a different bias and from a different perspective. It's he's coming at it from a more analytical angle, and yeah, I prefer this to straight up Sheikh Dawa. It's just more interesting to me, you know, not because like everything's right, but it's like I also think it's more universally informational and interesting from this perspective, right?
Contrast these three major religions together: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
And it helps me learn more. It challenges my belief system because obviously you know what I believe. I liked, treating this more like a class than I'm treating it like religious study.
All right, it's together. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All right? There's both strengths and weaknesses to all religions. So let's very quickly compare and contrast these three major religions to see why they thrive in a certain historical context. So, Judaism. The Bible, it's a wonderful piece of literature. It has a very rich history going back 1,000 years, right? So the Jews were the first to have a complete history of themselves. There are beautiful stories in the Bible that still inspire today. The stories of Adam and Eve, the stories of the patriarchs, the story of Moses. They still inspire us today, and they inspire us to create great literature. And then you have a literary culture. So the Jews were expected to be
Morocco ruled Spain for 1,000 years and had a lot of British slaves Azabi.
We know. Okay.
The Jews were expected to be people of the book. They were expected to be literate in order.
Yeah, how did that work out? How did that work out?
To practice their religion. Okay, and this helps us understand why Jews are so dominant in academia, universities, in the media and in culture, and in the legal profession. Okay, because these are people of the book. They have a tremendous respect for learning and for literacy. Okay. That said, there are certain problems with the tradition. The first is it's contradictory. When you read the Bible, it's always contradicting itself. Okay? It's almost schizophrenic, you could say.
What?
It's very hard.
Whoa, what is he going to say about the Quran, though? Zhang says, I'm not trying to laugh there, but it's... Okay, Zhang says, Bible is contradictory. And I'm literally have to write Jiang here, because when I post these notes, people are going to get so mad. Bible is contradictory and schizophrenic.
Pick out a definite message from the Bible. And that's why the old tradition, called the Torah, is actually much more important. Okay? And so Jews have to go to the synagogue all the time, where the rabbi will explain to them the meaning of the Bible, because if you read it by yourself, it's almost impossible to understand. Okay? Second problem is their God, Yahweh, he's very problematic. He's extremely problematic, as we know from last semester when we looked at the Bible. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing, and he's very, very violent. Okay, he often commands the Israelites to go kill all their enemies. Okay, so he's a very problematic God. And the third major problem in the tradition is faith versus history. If you believe that you're the chosen people, if you believe that Yahweh is the only true God, then why are you being persecuted all the time? Okay, why were the Romans able to kick you out of Jerusalem and burn down your temple, which is the house of God? Why are you homeless? Why do you lack a homeland? Okay?
Yo, why are you cooking the Jews like, yo, bro, why are you cooking the Jews like Oh my God. If you're the chosen people, why the Romans kick you out of your holy land? But that's the debate. I mean, that was the test that the Jews faced, and so many did not pass the test properly. And that started the crisis of faith. And that's why so many Jews were, chose hubris and, okay. Chosen Republic of time. Why were Chosens kicked out of Jerusalem by Romans?
On for 1,000 years. And there are no easy explanation to any of these problems. Okay, so within the Jewish faith, there's a lot of conflict and debate and doubt. So the Christian faith was created in many ways to try to resolve a lot of the issues within the Jewish tradition. The first major advantage of the Christian faith is it's the personification and perfection of divinity, right? Remember how we said that Yahweh is problematic? Well, now we have Jesus, who we can understand. And Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice, therefore we know him to be the ultimate good. Okay? Second advantage is, okay, now that there's a person, we can through him deliver a consistent message of being kind, being merciful, being loving. Okay? The third advantage is the idea of progress of history. Everything is leading to the return of Jesus, the second coming. Okay? So you may suffer now, but don't worry because Jesus is returning. And that will end history for us. All right? So these are the advantages of Christianity. But when you do that, when you have Jesus personified God, you create a lot of issues. Okay, the first issue is it's a really confusing story. Why would God come down to earth, manifest himself as a human, and then
I wish Nick was still here in the chat for this.
Sacrifice himself? That's really, really confusing. Like, I know there's a lot of really good explanations as to why this is the case. Still, if you're just a normal person, you can't understand the story. It makes no sense to you. Okay? Second is that it's counterintuitive. A lot of the ideas.
No, shout out to the Christians in the chat. Are there still a bunch of Christians? Obviously, there should be a lot of Christians in here, but I'm just laughing because this is why I became Muslim. Like, this stuff didn't make sense to me either. Like, why does God sacrifice himself? This stuff doesn't make logical sense. In like the 3v1, 3 is one thing. I think it's too straightforward. Yeah, I know, but like Islam is a very logical religion. And you know what my prediction is? He's about to explain Islam. I think he's going to find a lot of logical explanations for Islam. I don't think he's going to I'm wondering to see what his issues are. But you're saying some things are unexplainable, but I just don't believe that to be true. Why? That doesn't make sense. Faith should be based off of reason. Again, that's why this statement here is another reason why I became Muslim. He died for our sins. Okay, but how does God die? Like, and this is what Jiang is saying. Not to get all dollar, but I just find it, yeah. I wasn't, he's calling Mary, calling her a whore. Yeah, this is Jewish belief. Christians and Muslims believe that she performed a miracle birth. Let's see, let's keep watching.
In Christianity, it's just counterintuitive. The Holy Trinity must be the strangest idea in religion, where God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus are separate but equal. It makes no intuitive sense to anyone. And the third is distant divinity. Okay? God is out there somewhere. You don't know where. You can't talk to him.
I've been saying it throughout these lectures that I thought that he was that he has fitra and that he was a Muslim but maybe didn't know it. I've been saying that, right?
You can't see him. You have no idea where he is. Okay, it's a very distant divinity.
Islam is the same.
And so these are the disadvantages of Christianity. And so Islam now makes sense because it's trying to remedy and rectify these failings of Christianity. Okay, the first is that it takes the Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition and makes it part of itself. Okay? So it is really the continuation and the perfection of the Jewish Christian tradition. Second is the absoluteness of God. Okay? This is now true monotheism where God is everywhere.
What?
And you can see him.
No.
But if God is
It's just a lack of understanding. Is there not one Muslim in the class who's going to correct him? He's so
everywhere. And what's amazing is that that God can come inside you for your faith, for your devotion, and for your practice. All right? And so what this means is you now know how to behave in the world. There's a clarity of purpose and action. You know that as long as you...
Bro, John, astaghfirullah, he said that God comes inside you, bro. No. God doesn't come inside you. Oh, no.
To behave in the world, there's a clarity of purpose and action. You know that as long as you do those 5 things, those 5 pillars of Islam, your life will be good. God is in you. And that gives you strength and purpose and power.
And guidance.
Okay? And these ideas is what will start the Islamic golden age. And
wait, look what his weaknesses are. His weaknesses for Judaism, he writes on the whiteboard. His weaknesses for Judaism, it says, contradictory, problematic God, faith versus history. So that it's contradictory, right? The chosen people face persecution or are homeless. Problematic that Yahweh is a violent God who wants the Israelites to kill other people. And also the historical problems. His weaknesses in Christianity, the Trinity makes no sense, it's counterintuitive, and God doesn't make sense. His weaknesses in Islam here, it says it's too simple. That is a strength, that's not a weakness. How is simplicity a weakness? Subhanallah.
These ideas is what will start the Islamic golden age and allow Islam to propel itself past everyone.
Does he explain the weaknesses?
The problem, though, is it's too simple and clear. The advantage of being contradictory is you...
Too simple and clear? Too simple and clear? A weakness is that it makes sense? How could something be too clear? This is why I like this more than Dawa videos, because it just proves my faith even more. Jiang is so high IQ that the reason that he hasn't accepted Islam is saying that it makes too much sense. It's too easy. But it's really that simple. That's what the truth is. It makes logical sense. Jiang believes the weakness in Islam is simplicity and too clear. Wow. Wait, hold on. It's so funny.
Allow for different belief systems, which come into conflict with each other.
So, and that it's too peaceful because it allows... Jiang believes weakness is allowing for other faiths is that it's too much unity.
And with this contradiction and conflict, it allows for innovation. That's why Catholicism will eventually give way to Protestantism, okay?
But it's not an Islamic innovation.
Which is a reinterpretation.
So he's saying that allowing for other faiths. So he's saying that the reasons that Islam had the golden age is because it was tolerant of other faiths. But because of this tolerance, faith diverts. And that's why Catholicism and Protestantism exist. But he hasn't explained how this affected Islam. Islam is maintained. Islam didn't divert off into different factions. Obviously, Shia and Sunni, which he states, the difference is just who the caliph was. Right? But Catholicism and Protestantism are completely different religions. Go back to the second, you misunderstood? Okay, one more time.
That's why Catholicism, it allows for innovation. That's why Catholicism will eventually give way to Protestantism, okay?
We lost the point for the positive. Okay, let's go back. Let me just listen. Okay, hold on. Let's listen.
Is you allow for different belief systems which come into conflict with each other. And with this contradiction and conflict, it allows for innovation. That's why Catholicism will eventually give way to Protestantism, okay?
Back more? Okay, look, he just said, bro, you guys need it to be, are just people coping? He said it like 5 times.
These ideas is what will start the Islamic golden age and allow Islam to propel itself past everyone.
Okay.
The problem, though, is it's too simple and clear. The advantage of
that is the craziest statement. That is the craziest statement. It's almost like how sometimes your IQ can end up being a weakness on yourself. Is that he can't accept it because it makes too much sense, and that the complexities of the world, he's dedicated his life to history and complicated subjects and things that people haven't uncovered, geopolitical regime, all this, and it's very complex and it's very intertwined, right? So everything that he's come to understand is extremely difficult and has been manipulated, has been changed, has been innovated, and to get to the truth of history, there's all these complexities. This is his way of understanding the world. Then he reads about Islam, and it's too simple, and he can't accept it because everything else that he learns, everything else that he's dedicated his life to, has been extremely complex. And so he's found truth through complexity. It's very funny, huh?
Being contradictory is you allow for different belief systems which come into conflict with each other. And with this contradiction and conflict, it allows for innovation. That's why Catholicism will eventually give way to Protestantism, okay?
Dude, you guys keep saying go back, and he said exactly what we just explained, there's nothing changed.
Which is a reinterpretation of the Bible. But it's because the Bible is so contradictory.
Bro, I'm seeing, look how many copers there are in the chat right now. Sneeko, you're blinded by your faith. You literally paused it. Reinterpretation, what? You keep pausing it at the same point? What pause? I listened to it. Why are you guys rewind without? Bro, I'm not rewinding it again. Just watch it for yourself. Do you guys think that rewinding it is going to change what he just said? We heard it like 5 times. Why are people bro, people are seething and coping so hard right now. This is incredible to see.
That this innovation is allowed to happen. The Bible was extremely clear. The Quran is extremely clear. But if that's the case, then
Islam weaknesses sounds like me talking about my weaknesses in a job interview.
Exactly. You're in a job interview. It's like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? My weaknesses that I work too hard. I make too much sense. I'm too direct with people. I say it how it is. My weaknesses are, I just tell it like it is.
Holy fuck, go back. He's saying the advantage of being contradictory is it allows innovation.
The advantage? No, he's saying it's a weakness. He said it's a weakness.
Or rejection of the past and embrace of the future, okay? Second problem then is it's inflexible. It can't be as innovative as Christianity and Judaism. The third problem...
You're low IQ? Okay, holy fuck, bro. What?
That of the Bible. But it's because the Bible is so contradictory that this innovation is allowed to happen.
Because the Bible is contradictory, this innovation happens. He does not say Islam is contradictory. I don't know why you guys are going to keep seething and coping, but this is like
an embrace of the future, okay? Second problem then is it's inflexible. It can't be as innovative as Christianity and Judaism. The third problem is...
Oh, okay. I see this. It can't be as innovative, but innovation is why we have the world's problems. I don't see. He's citing this. He said it was a weakness, but he's also saying that it's a problem within Islam. So he has two different points of view on innovation.
Islam purports to stand outside of history, okay? Judaism is to be inside of history. Christianity is inside of history as well. But Islam is eternal. When you read the Quran, it's meant to be the eternal words. These words are always true. But then the problem then is, how do you go about and interpret your actions through the lens of history? And how do you improve your society based on this interpretation? All right? So
another thing I noticed is that he always views these things in terms of geopolitical gain. He views empire and faith and people in terms of like what they can gain for themselves. So he's viewing faith again from a lens where it could be advantageous.
In the beginning, the very aspects, the very strengths of Islam will give rise to a tremendous period of creativity. But over time, you will have these innovations will become dogma, and they will ossify, and they will prevent further growth in your society.
There you go. So innovation is a blessing and a curse, where obviously there shouldn't be innovation within your faith. He's saying Christianity innovated within its faith. That's how you get Protestantism and Catholicism. But innovation is also in terms of invention and modernization. And I wrote it here. Pros and cons. I will say is a blessing and a curse is a better way to describe it. Innovation is a blessing and a curse.
All right? So, does that make sense to you guys? All right. So, let me reframe what I just said in a different way. All right? So, let's just compare. Sorry.
Christ is king, Trinity is not real, and Yahweh is Allah's true name. Debate me.
No. Like, whatever, bro.
I'm going to compare and contrast Christianity with Islam.
Oh, here we go.
So and then this will be a bit more clear to you. All right? Okay, but are there any questions before I continue? Is this clear to you guys? So I apologize. I'm making a lot of generalizations, but again, this is a map.
You could even feel the uncomfortable blanket in that room is also in the chat right now. This is interesting.
View of history. All right. So let's look at Christianity and compare it with Islam. All right. So as I have said in previous classes, Christianity was developed by the Roman Empire in order to co-opt first the Jews and eventually these barbarian invaders. And therefore, the religion is one of empire and power. Okay? It's really about how to control people. But Islam, as I just mentioned, it is a revolutionary religion that must be open and inclusive and tolerant in order to attract as many followers as possible.
Porco.
Right?
Should
Now,
I slap
the
some
main
sausages
mechanism
on the grill for you for the NASCAR tailgate?
Is a religion of openness. Okay.
Open and inclusive and
inclusive is a religion of openness and inclusivity.
It would be great to summarize these lectures in Project Why Short Films with Images.
For an empire, it's the idea of orthodoxy.
Sorry.
Possible. All right?
Convert as many
now,
as possible.
the main mechanism of control for an empire is the idea of orthodoxy. Orthodoxy just means the correct thinking, okay? But if you're orthodoxy, you have the idea of heresy. Orthodoxy is with God, heresy is against God. If you agree that the sky is red, because I say the sky is red, then you are orthodox. But if you insist the sky is blue, then it is heretical, okay? And that constrains or limits the imagination. All right?
So it is false. Heresy is false.
And the philosopher that you base your society on is Plato.
Really?
So the idea of the bishop, the idea of the pope, it's really the idea of Plato's philosopher king. All right? So I'll explain Plato's philosophy in a second, okay? But let's look at Islam. So it's a revolutionary religion, and therefore you must activate the energy of all your followers. You must get them to believe, and you must get them to fight. Therefore, it's a religion based on intuition. God is with you. You know God. God is inside you, okay? And the idea of intuition is what allows for science. You can discover the truth by just observing.
So be Muslim, dude. Why is this guy not Muslim? You can literally prove Islam based off of science, and he's not Muslim? Intuition. Okay. You can discover the truth. Okay, well, what do you say exactly?
You can discover the truth by just observing.
So why allows for science? You can discover truth through observation. It's almost like teaching through funny.
Through empirical observation, through your own analysis, through your own belief, okay? And the person who argues this is, of course, Aristotle. So this is the argument I'm making to you, okay? A lot of scholars believe...
I think his sources of Islamic history might be from early 20th century Orientalists.
Yeah, you can see the Eastern influence for sure.
The age happened because the Islams had books. They had wealth. But the Byzantines also had access to all these major thinkers, Plato and Aristotle. Byzantines had a lot of wealth. Okay? What I'm arguing is that a culture needs to have an attitude, a perspective, a worldview, an orientation. For the Byzantines and the Europeans, they chose Plato. But the Muslims chose Aristotle. And that is the major difference.
I've never heard this before.
Okay? So let's go over, let's summarize Plato and Aristotle. How were their philosophies different? Okay.
What were you, Aristotle?
For Plato, the true God is called the form of the good. The form of the good is the beginning of everything. It is what is immutable. That cannot be changed. It is perfect, and it's eternal. Eternal means it was always there, and it will always be there. The form of the good, this God, he thinks and he emanates new concepts called ideals, like justice.
Juster?
Reason, beauty, power, okay? And these ideals will manifest themselves into perfect forms, okay? Like a horse, like the perfect horse, the perfect woman, okay? This, we can say, is his heaven. We live in something called the shadow world, which is just an imitation of heaven. But it's a bad imitation, so everything sucks, okay? So for example, if you fall down and you break your leg, it hurts because we live in a shadow world. So in this conception of the universe, what we're trying to do is return to the form of the good. And for Plato, he argues that you can do this through mathematics and geometry, because mathematics is what is most like the form of the good. It is immutable, perfect, and eternal. So by studying mathematics and geometry, you are able to ascend back into the form of the good. But guess what? Augustine will take Plato and he will adapt it to the Christian faith, right? Because how do you leave this world? By not sinning, by having faith. If you do that, then you are allowed to go to heaven. Okay? So in the Platonic Augustine understanding, we in this world all we have to do is not make a mistake. So do nothing. Okay? Do nothing and you'll be good. Aristotle has a different conception of the universe. He believes the formula of good is called a prime mover. All right? God is a prime mover. So God is the first thing that acts and moves things, okay? And when he does that, when he creates motion, other things start to happen as well.
Yeah, so the real motion man is God. Bang.
Oh,
sorry.
Other things start to happen as well, okay? So we're constantly moving about. Where we're going is we are seeking truth. And it's called telos. Telos means purpose. So each of us, our nature, has a purpose. If you're a soldier, your purpose is to be the best warrior. If you're a mathematician, your purpose is to be the best mathematician, okay? And that is the idea of truth, to fulfill your purpose. And therefore, you must be constantly acting, okay? Now, the beauty of this idea of motion is you can now study it through empirical observation. You can observe things and then start to understand their nature. And this gives rise to the idea of science. Okay? Right? So, the Muslim world had a decidedly Aristotelian perspective, whereas the European world had a Platonic perspective. Now, the great thing about history, the great thing about civilization is that what will happen is the Europeans will learn from the Muslims. They'll copy the Muslims, right? They'll bring back Aristotle, they'll bring back science, and they'll bring back intuition. Right? And they will do so through three major events. The first is the Renaissance, where they bring back Aristotle. The second is the Protestant Reformation, where they will bring back God. Remember,
Quran hides God's name revealed to Moises the same way God erased Satan's true name in Bible.
Where they will bring back God. Remember, the Catholic religion.
Wait, so what did Renaissance bring back? Renaissance brought back?
It's a Protestant where they bring back Aristotle through the Pope or the priest. Okay? But the Protestant religion is, no, God is with us. God is in us. For your actions, you can win God's favor, okay?
Dr. Roy Casagranda's top viewed video gave the sauce for free.
Yeah, thank you.
He's what you're searching.
Thank you again for the 80 idiots yesterday telling me to watch a video that I'm not watching.
Right, the scientific revolution. And these are the three major events that will give us modernity. Okay? But guess what? The Europeans are just emulating the Muslims. But, and this is really important, they will improve on the Muslims. Okay? So the problem with science is, yes, in the beginning you will have all this tremendous discovery, but this innovation will eventually lead to something called a dogma. All right? And so what you need to do is create institutions to destroy dogma. And that's what the Europeans will do, which will, and this idea that dogma can be destroyed through discussion and debate and analysis is what will become the basis of the Silent Revolution, which will create the modern world that we live in today, okay? So we will go through all of these three major movements in future classes. But please remember that it's the Islamic Golden Age which will inspire the Europeans to do all three of these things, which in turn will create the modern world that we live in today. Okay? And that's why I believe that Islamic Golden Age is really the proto-modernity of human history. All right, that is my argument to you. Any questions?
Again, these
Anything you
are
aren't
arguments.
clear about?
Why are you not Muslim? Sheikh Jang.
Was this clear?
I can't wait to interview
Okay.
him. Bro, it's gonna be so good on Sunday, bro.
Question or just an observation?
Sure.
Oh my God, Doug.
Are you able to go back a couple slides to the
Sure.
empire and power versus religion?
Okay. Sure. Right here.
Yeah.
Why are you supposed to the teacher? He reminds me of my grandfather.
You got me thinking about the theory.
I'm not trying to call him old, but like he's exactly like my Filipino grandfather. His explanation, even look, I said this the other day, the way he puts his hands behind his back when he's in a pensive thinking, like this is exactly how he does it.
Islam. And so there's kind of two movements.
Doug sounds gay, doesn't he? An Islam. That's like, what's that? What about Islam?
Like the first one is like with the Umayyad Caliphate, which lasts about 100 years.
Right.
It was really kind of that revolution that you're talking about, like very expensive.
I don't know if I want to talk. Oh my God, Doug, shut up, bro. Look at him yap. This is what happens when you gas up a student. He thinks he's the shit now. He's just still. Dude, his question is taking 3 minutes. He doesn't. I hate those students so much that don't even have a question. They just want to talk so their voice is heard. This is like my number one. Why YouTube lectures are better than school, because I can just fast forward. I don't need to listen to these error. That's what's going on. Shut the fuck up. He's still going.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So
that was a 3-minute question.
Let me elaborate on this point. So there's a literary critic, Norfolk Fry, right? Yep. People are cool.
It's okay. Let's go review these notes real quick, and go over. Okay, class. Oh, maybe we could do the Kahoot too. I can go pull up that Kahoot from earlier. So here is the lesson on the lecture on the Islamic Golden Age, right? And again, this is a lot of his arguments. This is a lot of his bias. I think out of all the lectures, this one you have to really take it with a grain of salt, right? So the Islamic Golden Age. Remember that there's 2 billion Christians, 2 billion Muslims and 1 billion Christians. Why is this? Indonesia is the most populated Muslim country, and this goes against the fact that they call it an Arab religion. Indonesia, they look like niggas like me, bro. Ching chongs, right? Shia is the belief that only direct descendants of Ali can be the caliph. That's really the only difference. Like the difference between Protestantism and Catholicism are so different. They're really completely different religions about the authority and about Trinity and about praying to Mary and praying to all these different things. Shia, they're still Muslim. They just believe in different caliphs and the descendants of that. Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the final prophet. Jesus, the penultimate prophet, came right before. Muhammad's vision, peace be upon him, came from Angel Gabriel, who revealed the Quran. I wouldn't even say it's a vision. The vision, it wasn't a vision, but that's how he's describing it. Again, this is all Professor Jang. And the vision was to reveal monotheism to a pagan society, right? Because at the time, there were all these pagans in Mecca and in Arabia and in that region of the world. And so when Muhammad, peace be upon him, came, he was met with resistance, and he was forced to go from Mecca to Medina. He becomes a leader against the Jewish tribes, which mainly populated Arabia at the time. The Constitution of Medina, which was written in the Quran, of course, he says, I need to check that, to let other faiths practice, right? It was open and tolerant to other religions in comparison to other faiths, which is wants to control. Islam spread beyond the Middle East and conquered the Byzantine and Persian Empire. They take Jerusalem and build Al-Aqsa Mosque. And it's Muhammad, peace be upon him, that ascended to heaven from Al-Aqsa. And this is called the movement, Al-Isra wal-Miraj. Al-Aqsa was built on top of Temple Mount, the Jewish temple. So one of the three main questions that he answers this, that he speculates about, are why did Islam build on top of the Jewish Temple Mount? We'll go into his reasoning later. The Islamic Caliphate, they conquered the Persian Empire and half of the Byzantine, the Roman Empire. The Byzantines were impenetrable, right? So that's why they couldn't finish it. They had Greek fire and walls preventing conquering. Islam spread from Arabia to most of the Middle East. It takes less than 100 years. They did this quick. The Umayyad Caliphate was the largest empire in the world and the wealthiest one too. And there's the 5 pillars of Islam. Shahada, the declaration, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. which means I declare witness that there is none worthy of worship except God, and Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final prophet. Second one is Salah, prayer. Third is Zakat, charity. Fourth is Psalm, which is Ramadan, fasting, coming up very soon. And the fifth one is Hajj, is taking a pilgrimage to Mecca at a specific time of the year. John couldn't go to Mecca because he's not Muslim, right? That's funny to write down because he really wanted to go see it, but he didn't know that in order to go to Mecca, you have to be Muslim. Brother, what's your Muslim name? Allahu Akbar! Jews were a part of early Islam and were literate. So the question is, like, why were there no early records of the first 100 years of Islam? Because Muhammad, peace on him, he was illiterate. Why did Muslims war with two empires, the Roman and Persian? So here are three questions. Why did they war with the Roman and Persians? Why did he not name it? Why did the final prophet not name his successor? And why did Muslims build on a Jewish temple? John claims no one knows these three questions. Bukhara in Uzbekistan. I don't remember what the significance of that. So I'm going to delete this. Oh no, he says it was an example of beautiful Islamic architecture. I don't know how to spell this here. The main cultural center of Islamic Golden Age is Baghdad. Baghdad today, I gotta fact check that so I don't look dumb, is in Iraq. Abbasid Caliphate was the height of the Islamic civilization. It created the world we have today, connects the entire world through globalization. The Abbasids used global networks and made them richer through trade routes, traded heavily with the Chinese Empire. We learned later that the Chinese are the ones who gave them paper and books. It created the Maritime Silk Road, trade routes. The main center of production was called the House of Wisdom model, called Library of Alexandria. The first university to systemize Hellenic through mass dissemination. What's the definition of Hellenic? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do. Hellenic is... Oh, it was a period of Alexander the Great's conquest. Oh, what would you say for that? Oh, Hellenic? Hellenic. Okay, Hellenic. Like Greek teachings? Through mass dissemination. Dissemination, the definition is the action or fact of spreading something, especially information, widely. Greek culture, okay. That's the same as teaching, similar. Right, so the Islamic Empire took works from Aristotle and Plato and disseminated, spread across the world. Systemized and built on math. So Islam is the reason that we have modern day math, or math we learned in school. The Greeks, Jews, and Persians were all trading information in the House of Wisdom. House of Wisdom, again, was in Baghdad, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go fact check that. Was it Baghdad? Yeah, it was in Baghdad.
The Al-Aqsa Masjid was built on top of the hidden books of magic from Prophet Solomon time.
Oh, okay. Again, these are his arguments. The Arabian Nights was a main book of Islamic information. At the time, poetry was considered high art. This book was considered low art, but eventually the Europeans adopted it, and it was the basis of many Disney works and stories. Rumi, from 1207 to 1273, was one of the major thinkers of the Islamic Golden Age. He was a Persian poet and mystic philosopher. Ibn Sina, from 980 to 1037, was the most famous intellectual of the Islamic Golden Age. His books were admired in Europe. He inspired Leonardo Fibonacci. Again, you get the Fibonacci sequence from him. He went to Baghdad and imported ideas to Europe. Ibn Rushd, from 1126 to 1198. You know what's really interesting too? You never learn about the Islamic Golden Age in school. Did you? I never learned any of this. But again, this goes back to his idea that the English language has a supremacy ideology built into it, which is why the British Empire spread so much, and why the Chinese should prioritize themselves instead of the English language, because when you learn the English language, and when you learn within English, it's going to promote things like Shakespeare and stuff, and those ideologies with it. Probably a reason why this is not taught in Western schools. I never learned any of this in school. Ibn Rushd influenced Dante's Divine Comedy. He named Socrates, Plato, and also Avicenna, which is a nickname for, or Latin name for Ibn Sina. Islamic influence on Europe has been whitewashed. Without Islam, Europe would not have modernized. Musa al-Khwarizmi, from 780 to 850, he was nicknamed Algorithmi. He was the father of algebra. Algorithmi, the basis of modern algorithms. Algebra and algorithm were Arabic words. Math we study in school was developed in Islamic Golden Age. Ibn al-Haytham invented physics, becomes basis for the Renaissance in Europe. The first 24-hour hospital was in Baghdad. Poor people could receive free medical treatment. Al-Qarawiyyan from 859 was in Fez, Morocco. He had the first degree granting university. Oh no, it was founded by a woman. Is this a woman? Iraq mentioned, shout out to Iraq. Oh no, this is the university. Founded by a woman, I don't know her name. In 1258, the Islamic Golden Age comes to an end. The Mongols sacked Baghdad and burned all the books. No! Baghdad had thriving bookstore culture, and they learned how to make paper and books from China. But the Mongols came in, and they destroyed it all. The Quran standardizes Arabic and becomes the language of the Muslim world. Ibn Khaldun was the father of social science, example, economics, politics, and he also says something about history, but this is fine. He founded Asabiya, which is social cohesion, the idea of how society should run. He also wrote about why empires rise and fall, and the reason is empires lose to more free and open societies. So strict societies will often be overrun by open and free ones. That's how you get American empire today, if you follow this logic. From 1300 to 1700, even though the Islamic empire fell, during this period, it was dominated by three empires, the Mughal, Ottoman, and Safavid. But in this time, Islam still dominated, which is strange, right? In 622, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes from Mecca to Medina. This is going back in time again, obviously. The Jews align with the Persians of the war against the Byzantines, Romans. Byzantines are Romans. I don't know why they always intertwine this. In 70 AD, the Romans destroyed Jewish temple. And this is why they sided with the Persians. In 135 AD, the Romans expelled Jews. Jews want to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. The Persians take Jerusalem and push out the Romans. This is I'm a numbers guy. Persians linking up with the Jews. Emperor Heracles of the Romans returned to Jerusalem in the First Crusade. Emperor Heracles, right? He expels the expel of Jews? Oh no, they expel the Jews. They kill a lot of Jews. I don't want to put this on Twitter, it's going to get me banned. Might get me in trouble. They expel and unalive the Jews. Jews have nowhere to go after Jerusalem expulsion. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina promises religious tolerance. Islam is now a distinct religion. Muslims at the time were called believers, right? Because the word Muslim just means submission to God. All Abrahamic faiths were then considered one religion. The Constitution of Medina was the idea of religious tolerance in the Quran. Zoroastrianism was a monotheistic religion of the Persians. And again, the Persians sided with the Jews. The apocalyptic age, all believed that this was the end of the world. At the time, I'll put many, because I don't think Muhammad and Muslims, peace be upon him, believed that this was the end of the world. I don't think it was ever a belief system. The Jews believed the Persians and the Romans' war was the Gog and Magog, was the end of times. Gog and Magog was the final battle, end of days. The Jewish Messiah was to come and unite the Jews. But they were mistaken. The end of times is probably coming soon. The Jews believed it could be Muhammad. The final battle between Messiah and the Antichrist, right? This is the end of times theory. Official religion of Romans was the Holy Trinity. Most Christians didn't believe in the Holy Trinity. They were persecuted for their refusal to believe in Trinity. Persecuted, and a lot of them were killed. Zoroastrians believe in the final between good and evil. They also believed it was the end of times. So everybody thought it was the end of times. Muhammad, peace be upon him, believes we're all one to fight for God. Hey, we're all the same. We're all part of the Abrahamic faith. Why don't we just go fight for God? The Quran is the best evidence for Muhammad, peace be upon him's life. Because there wasn't a lot written at the time, John argues. Abraham is our forefather. Why are Abrahamic faiths arguing? This is from subtext from Quran. Christianity arrived, yeah, he's saying, oh, people of the book. I'll put this here so we get this correct. Christianity arrived from the debate about Jesus. Muhammad, peace be upon him, argued that Jesus was a prophet, not God. He said, do not worship messengers. That's shirk. You're worshiping other than
University of Al Qarawiyyan founder is Fatima Al Faria, and she is Tunisian.
Okay. Oh, she's Tunisian? Oh, that's good to know. The Trinity is nonsense, and that God is one, not three. In 622, Christians were being persecuted for refusing the Trinity under the Roman Empire. Some were killed. Muhammad confirms these Christians' belief of monotheism. Right? He goes on this argument about if you're called crazy for so long and then somebody says you're not, you're going to follow them. Islam is the first monotheistic religion in the modern sense. Power from Islam comes from uniting paganism, because pagans at the time helped us feel and understand the world. It made us feel good. Feel good, yoga. Islam had simplicity, clarity, and absoluteness of monotheism. Islam is a major intellectual revolution because of fitra, because it describes this innate feeling that we're supposed to worship the one God. Islam as proto-modernity, basically the baseness of modernity, which obviously, in hindsight, I don't know if that was a good thing. But it's not the fault of Islam, it's the fault of people who took modernity and used it for greed. John believes God is within, we can touch God, because of his Eastern bias. He doesn't understand Islam. He's saying that Islam says God is within and that it's everywhere. It's not Islam at all. God is the idea of one true creator, right? Greater, and that is not here within, and around. Islam becomes a social order. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam represented a revolution against the social order. So he argues that Islam is a revolutionary religion. And again, I started realizing through his description why you see liberals start to side with Islam against Christianity. If you follow Zhang's belief that Christianity is a religion based off of empire and control, and Islam is a religion of tolerance and acceptance, the acceptance of other faiths. This seems to be why liberals resonate with Islam compared to Christianity. Early Muslim caliphs died in military conflict. That's why we don't have information from early military records between empires. The early days of Islam, Jews and Christians, in the early days of Islam, Jews and Christians were part of a hierarchy. Civil war amongst Muslims to determine caliph. Bloody early history, which is why the first 100 years were hidden. This is John's explanation. The idea of, I'm going to center this one. The idea of history comes from Greeks and Romans who wrote it down. Maybe because they believed it was the end of days, no point in writing. That's, again, his argument for why. I'm going to copy paste this. His al-Aqsa explanation is the Jews can't return to Jerusalem, but then eventually they can under the condition they can. The Jews can return to Jerusalem under the condition they can rebuild their temple. And Cyrus the Great is called the Messiah in the Bible because he allowed this to happen. I guess Old Testament. The process of Al-Aqsa Mosque took 200 years. And John says that it was always supposed to be the third temple. And his also explanation for why Al-Aqsa was built over the temple was because it was a deal from the Muslims to the Jews. I don't believe this to be true. Again, I usually don't put this in the notes, but this is super speculative and divisive, so I'm going to include this because I'm publishing these notes. Jews were the first to have a complete history. Adam and Eve, Moses, patriarchs, they have literary culture. Jews were expected to be people of the book. I'll put problem. Jews were expected to be people of the book. Wait, oh no, that's not the problem yet. That comes later. Learning and literacy is why they're dominant in academia. John says
Salam
is contradictory and schizophrenic.
Orthodox Muslim wants to contact. Would be good. I will send him this clip.
Cool. Okay, John says the Bible is contradictory and schizophrenic. It's hard to pick up a definite message. I'll say definitive. Torah is much more important. Rabbi explains the Bible. Rabbis have to explain the Bible to people in synagogue because it makes no sense. That's what he's saying. He's saying that Yahweh is problematic. Yahweh is violent and he doesn't know what he's doing. And in the Bible, it says the chosen people. Well, for you, there's a question. How?
Hey, Sneak, you should look into the Avicii's history before he died. Interesting story.
I'll look into that. How are chosen people persecuted all the time? And we talked about that in a previous lecture. That's the crisis of faith. Why are chosen people kicked out of Jerusalem by Romans? This is redundant. I can delete this note. And also, it aligns better here. Christianity came to explain the problems of Jewish faith. Jesus' sacrifice helps us understand ultimate good. Suffering will end under the return of Jesus. Jesus being God is a confusing story. Why would God come down and sacrifice himself? Trinity is strange and counterintuitive, separate but equal. Islam rectifies failure of Christianity, takes Jewish and Christianity and unites it as continuation. Oh, people of the book. Great surah from the Quran. Islam has an absoluteness of God. John believes God is within Islam. Not true. God is not within us, and we can't touch God. But he says this over and over again. The 5 pillars give you strength and purpose. The idea of deen, the straight path. Islam propels beyond all. Jiang believes the weakness of Islam is simplicity and too clear. This is the craziest part of the lecture to me. Jiang believes weakness is allowing for other faiths. Believes Islam's weakness is allowing for other faiths. But this is not really a weakness in Islam. It's more about a weakness in humanity. Because that's what we should do. We should allow for other faiths. We should be tolerant of people. But the fact that that tolerance allows greedy people to subvert and take over and push their own agenda. That's not really a weakness in Islam. That's a weakness within human nature. Because the faith tolerance allows for innovation. John believes innovation is a blessing and a curse, right? It allowed for modernity, but it also allowed for diversion. Islam gives way for creativity, which also prevents its empire. The creativity and the growth and the benefits and the beauty of the Islamic empire also allowed for its downfall, because so much creativity and everything, and tolerance prevents empire. Empire is only possible through control and power. Here we are, Christianity versus Islam. Christianity was developed by Roman Empire to co-opt the Jews. Christianity is a religion of empire and power. How to control people. Whereas Islam is a revolutionary religion of openness and inclusivity. And the goal is to convert as many as possible, rather than control as many as possible. Christianity method of control is orthodoxy. Here's heresy. Oh yeah, heresy is against God, and Christianity heretical. Heresy is philosophy from Plato. Whereas Islam activates the energy of its followers. Religion is based on intuition. Intuition allows for science. You can discover truth through observation. Aristotle argues for intuition. This allows for science. Christianity is represented by Plato. Islam is represented by Aristotle. Plato believes that we live in a shadow world, an imitation of heaven. You go to heaven by not sinning. But Aristotle says good comes from the prime mover, God, and we're here to seek truth and purpose. And this idea gave birth to science. Europeans learned and copied from Muslims. The Renaissance brought back Aristotle, the European Renaissance. Renaissance, Protestants, scientific revolution was the basis of modernity. All this came from Muslims. Islamic Golden Age inspired Europeans to create the modern world. Proto-modernity of human history. So that was a great lesson, great lecture.
Must be being paid by someone in power who does not like these accusations that have been made against them. And I think it's fair to ask, are you being paid by any of the men who've been accused by Jeffrey Epstein?
Wow. Today's installment of the Piers Morgan show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, if you will, did go off the rails as Michael Tracy got into a bit of a spat with Tara Palmieri about the reality of the Epstein files, or at least what the Epstein files have revealed to the public. Now, for whatever reason, Michael Tracy does not believe that the revelations that we've all learned about and all read for ourselves exist. And so that's kind of at the heart of this spat that I'm gonna show you the highlights of in just a minute. But before I do, Cenk.
I mean, we got former TYT versus kind of current TYT. That's kind of interesting.
Do you stand by your former hiring decisions?
Well, so Michael's an interesting cat. As you're gonna see here, I have a different theory as to why Michael is saying absurd things. So first we'll show you the absurd things and I'll tell you why I think he's saying them. And then of course we'll get into who's right.
Now look, I do think that there's been a little bit of extrapolation or moral panic. So for instance, when you look at the Epstein files, some of those documents are FBI files where they're taking in calls where people are making accusations. And I see that a lot of people take those accusations as gospel, and you shouldn't do that, right? Because some people did call in and make insane allegations, and there's no evidence of those more outlandish allegations. So I want to just be clear about that, because I do see people making that mistake. So just be careful with what you're reading, and don't, assume that all of the allegations are 100% true.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, in a little bit, I'll give you order of credibility for what you're reading and how to determine it. And I'll say, look, Michael had this interesting moment here where he had trouble with his earpiece at a very inopportune time, but I actually believe him. So let's give you the videos.
Look at you. Okay, well, at the beginning of this episode, Morgan interviewed David Boies, and if you're unfamiliar with who that is, he's the person, the lawyer who represented Virginia Giuffre. And her case was against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, used to be referred to as Prince Andrew, but he's been very bad, so he's had his title stripped from him. Now, Tracy has repeatedly accused Virginia Giuffre of fabricating her story, and more broadly, he doesn't think that Epstein was doing any sex trafficking at all. Now, if you think that's crazy, there's no way he believes that. Here he is. You should hear it from the horse's mouth.
You know what the files show us? That the government investigators who were on a warpath at this point against Epstein and then Maxwell discovered no credible evidence of any pedophilic sex trafficking or any sex trafficking at all to any third-party individuals, which was the crux of the mythology that Virginia Roberts Giuffre incubated, that Tara Palmieri amplified so lamentably credulously.
I'm gonna let you take that one, Cenk.
Yeah, that's absurd. There's a mountain of evidence. So look, some people are wondering, hey, is Michael Tracy running cover for Israel? That's not my experience with him. He's just a natural born contrarian. If you tell him the sky is blue and the grass is green, he will argue till the end of time that they are not. Right? So like this is the most obvious case in the world. There's video cameras in every room. They're in the tissue boxes. Gee, I wonder why they put video cameras. There's 1,200 victims. There's descriptions, there's emails of people going, I'll take a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old.
No trafficking, no pedophilia.
I mean, and Leon, there's, Leon Black, according to the allegations, doing vicious rapes. Les Wexner called a co-conspirator by the FBI. There is a mountain of evidence. But no matter how much evidence you give Michael, that makes him want to oppose it even more.
It's crazy. I get the journalist's urge to maybe view things from a contrarian lens and be skeptical. Be skeptical of an official narrative, of conventional wisdom. That is a good thing. But once you read the documents for yourself, how do you still reach the conclusion that there was no human trafficking happening?
And he's so over the top sometimes. Like he said, they were going on a warpath against Epstein. What warpath? When they caught him in 2008, they gave him such a light sentence. The sentence was, well, if you don't mind, come and use the jail as a hotel. You're free to go during the day because we know you have important work, like raping our children.
No, but Cenk, have you considered that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't happy with the sweetheart deal? He thought that Dershowitz could have done better. Have you considered that?
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so a tiny amount of time, but only at night. And then Ghislaine Maxwell is in the minimum security prison having the time of her life, but they're on a war path against poor Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, it's classic Michael Tracy, like absurd contrarian nonsense.
So after that, Piers Morgan asked Palmieri for comment. And remember, she's one of the top reporters that's been following this story, reporting on it meticulously, if you ask me. But look, Tracy wasn't having it, so here's the clip.
I don't know, Michael, have you ever actually listened to any of the tapes at the Palm Beach, the police in Palm Beach, the detective? Have you listened to any of the girls that they interviewed that were as young as 14?
I've listened to them all.
Yeah, and you think that they're not
listened
credible?
to it all, Tara.
You don't think that entire pyramid scheme in a high school?
Do you think Virginia Roberts-Giuffre is credible? She had nothing to do with that initial Palm Beach investigation. We're talking about your former journalistic collaborator who had to recant allegations against Dershowitz, had to recant her allegations against
let her speak, please.
Harvard professor Stephen Koslin, recanted against Jean-Luc Brunel. So you defend the credibility
let her speak, or I'll cut your mic.
Of your journalistic collaborator. Go ahead.
Who do you work for, Michael?
All right, it's time for New Year's resolutions. We all make them, but I'm not making any big flashy resolutions that are gonna crash and burn by February. My reset is much simpler. It's about giving myself a break in the kitchen. Not by eating less, don't be crazy. But let's be honest, thinking about what to eat, shopping for it, cooking it, it's a drain. And when you're drained from cooking, you can't focus on the work that matters, and that's the work right here. That's where Cook Unity comes in. It's been my way of cheating. Like I have a personal chef. I'm very fancy that way, please. But without the insane cost. Restaurant quality meals on my schedule. So I ordered a bunch of things that I loved. So we got the pepperoni naan pizza. I love pepperoni pizza, I love naan. You put it together, it's genius. Golden chicken schnitzel. It's schnitzel, but it's golden. Okay, this stuff is all so good. New Orleans shrimp and grits. They have sausage in there too. Love it. And that's my point, guys. These aren't boring and repetitive meals. These are all-star chefs, Food Network alum, and James Beard winners. Handpicking seasonal ingredients and balancing bold flavors with nutrition. Every meal is a small batch masterpiece delivered fresh, never frozen. It makes hitting wellness goals effortless because a nutritious, incredible meal is ready in minutes. No shopping, no cooking, no cleanup. You can browse by chef, by cuisine, filter macros to the gram, not a thing I would do, but you could. And it's way less than takeout or even grocery store prices. Plus their packaging is part of a reusable, eco-friendly program. You can't ask for more. Taste comfort and craftsmanship in every bite from the award-winning chefs behind Cook Unity. Go to cookunity.com/TYT or enter code TYT before checkout to get 50% off your first order. That's 50% off your first order by using code TYT or going to cookunity.com/TYT.
Oh my God. Okay, I had listened to this episode. I hadn't watched the video of it. I gotta say, the look on everyone's face as he's talking is just like John Kiriakou is the guy in the middle. He's a former CIA agent.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Benz is the other guy.
Yeah.
And he just has this blank look on his face because the exchange is absurd. It's totally absurd.
John can't believe it. What is that? Who cares if she, all right, anyways, keep going.
All right, so when Tracy refers to Palmieri as Virginia Giuffre's journalistic collaborator, he's alluding to the fact that they once hosted a podcast together.
But but Tara reported, she's one of the top reporters on the Epstein files. So what did she do? She interviewed the victims.
Unacceptable, unacceptable. I don't do that.
Journalism 101, what did you want her to do? Not interview the victims? In this case, maybe the answer is yes.
So how did Michael Tracy respond to Tara Palmieri's question, right? Like, are you getting paid by any of Epstein's co-conspirators? Like, what's going on here? We should watch that moment because it was awkward and Cenk is gonna potentially defend Michael Tracy. So take a look.
Are you being paid by any of the men who've been accused by Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm having trouble hearing right now. I wish I could respond to whatever nonsense she just blurted out.
I'm asking you if you have ever been paid by any of the men who have been accused of crimes.
But maybe somebody can
an astonishing coincidence that you suddenly lost your hearing when you were asked a very difficult question. Tara asked if you're being paid by anybody to smear the victims of the Epstein
rather than
scandal.
defend the merits of her journalistic output, which she can't because it's indefensible, what does she do? She tries to impugn me personally, tries to imply or
you're not answering.
What's the answer to the question?
Of course I'm not being paid by anyone. I am paid by my readers on Substack, you idiot. You just can't engage on the merits, Tara. You are a disgrace. You are going to be remembered as somebody who was integral in fomenting this moral panic and mass hysteria that's led to mass defamation like you just tried against me.
Okay, there are rich and powerful men who have taken advantage of, and in some cases, preyed upon underage girls, some of whom, actually most of whom, came from disadvantaged backgrounds. And they were preyed upon specifically because they came from poor families or broken homes, and it would be harder for them to fight back. Throughout many decades, our government provided cover for those bad actors. That is a huge scandal. And the fact that, look, I think it's bad enough that we're living in a country right now that's just moving about the day, business as usual, nothing to see here. That's bad enough. But to have a so-called reporter add to it, and then on top of that, deny reality is beyond infuriating. Because aside from the victims not getting the justice that they deserve, this whole story says a lot about the society we live in, okay? About our leadership, about the power players in this country and across the globe. And I would prefer to not live in a world where disgusting, pedophilic garbage gets to make decisions about the lives of all of us live.
Yeah, so Michael's acting like someone who's on the wrong side of this, and I don't mean like as an opinion, but as in like Alan Dershowitz and all the other people who cooperated with Epstein. But I don't think he is. So, man, maybe I'm wrong, but is he acting that way? Oh, clearly. I mean, I had battled with him on Twitter the other day, and he was like, name names, name names. That's like what Dershowitz does. And then he just said mass defamation, just like Dershowitz does. Like he wants you to name a name so you can get sued or something. And I'm like, Michael, why are you being dense? Here's a name, Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't investigate him for decades. They gave him the lightest sentence possible. They let him go back. They knew he was committing all these crimes and abusing all these girls, and they didn't rearrest him until there was another story out over a decade later, et cetera. Ghislaine Maxwell, there's another name. And again, for decades, they left her alone. Even when they went after Epstein, they didn't go after Maxwell.
He even attacks Julie K. Brown, by the way. He attacks Julie K. Brown. That's the reporter.
Yeah, so that's the reporter who broke the story.
Who broke the story and led to Epstein getting arrested the second time.
So, I mean, if you fancy yourself a great reporter, as I think Michael does, then you should be celebrating Julie K. Brown. That was an amazing piece of journalism that led to the arrest of Epstein that the whole government didn't want to arrest in the first place. And with, again, overwhelming evidence. You want more names, FBI names Les Wexner's co-conspirator. We've been through all of these, right? But Michael's the kind of guy that you can say 1,200 victims, you can name like all these different guys, and he'll say, so there's no evidence. You're like, I just listed the evidence. What is wrong with you? And I think part of the issue is, he's too thirsty to stand out from the crowd.
Pick a different story. Pick a different story. Pick a different story, okay? This ain't it.
No, but here's why this story is perfect for that. Because who would be crazy enough to defend Epstein? And Michael Tracy's like, I'll be your Huckleberry. Okay, so I don't think he's being paid. And the earpiece, no, he was playing around with it before. He was having trouble with it before.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on the earpiece.
And he did say, of course I'm not paid. And he's not.
I don't think he's paid.
No, I
don't think he's paid. I think he's wrong on this issue. And he looks even more clownish when he starts throwing out insults against journalists who have been following this story meticulously for many years. And look, the problem with citing in that moment, in that spontaneous moment, the problem with citing specific examples or evidence is that there's so much. So like, what do you remember? What do you remember to cite in that context? You get what I'm saying? But I mean, we've been covering specific emails. We've been covering the 16-year-old girl's diary, you know, the 16-year-old girl who had autism and Down syndrome and claimed that Leon Black had raped her, that one.
So how do you explain the government not investigating that allegation? That allegation is horrific.
So apparently there was an investigation into Leon Black. Charges were dropped though.
Yeah, and just so tell me why they were dropped. I mean, maybe there's a good reason why they were dropped, but no one stated that reason. So since no one was either investigated or all charges were always dropped in this case, if you think that doesn't raise suspicion, you're not being honest. So this is Michael Tracy just doing the look at me daddy strategy here. So, okay, Michael, you win. We all looked at you, but I'm not sure that it was a win you thought you were getting.
Yeah, we definitely gave you the side eye.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Now, in the last 2 weeks, Trump gave another $8.6 billion, totally unaccounted. Where's that $8.6 billion coming from? Did anybody ever vote for that $8.6 billion? And then unabated, he gave another $3.3 billion. Where is this money coming from? Is anybody voting on this? What is going on?
Well, it's debt. These are IOUs to countries that are buying our treasuries.
Exactly.
All right, so that was Cenk. And Cenk, you just sat down with Tucker Carlson for nearly a 2.5-hour interview, which is very impressive, and kudos to you for getting through that. Let's give you, what are your 2 cents before we get to some of the clips?
Yeah, so what I want people to look out for in this interview, and we're gonna show you some of the clips right now, is, yeah, one is the issue of American sovereignty in Israel and what we're doing with it. The other is that the whole idea of red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat is a mirage, is an illusion to get us to fight each other so we don't focus on the powerful people in this country who actually rule us. So I want you to pay attention to all that. And at the end, we're gonna show you, we're gonna share with you guys an analogy that I did that Tucker really loved. It's a little bit controversial, but you'll see that at the end.
Yeah, it is a fun analogy, I will say. But before we get to your analogy, here is a clip of you, Cenk, calling out Trump's deference to his pro-Israel donors.
One of the things they wanted was taxes and other interests and defeat the unions and their casinos and all the things, their wish list. But the main thing they wanted was for Israel. And Trump says it all the time. He doesn't hide it at all. He said it in the Knesset. Yeah, he said, look, you guys give me money, and Sheldon wanted me to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, so I moved it for him. Like, you're not supposed to say that, okay?
That's what I love about Trump. I love it when he just says it.
Yeah, so he's like, and then so they wanted this, and I gave him the Golan Heights. I said, go ahead, take it, right? And whatever Israel asked, and he said, Sheldon came in here in my first term more than any other person. And he said, to be fair, he gave the most. Right? So if you give that much money, you get access and you get American policy. So now Miriam's up there going, maybe you should run for a 3rd term and I'll give him $250 million. She said that on air next to Trump. So that is them rubbing it in our face.
All right, well then Cenk and Tucker Carlson were also critical of Trump's strikes on Iran and Venezuela. So let's take a look at that.
I was having lunch with Trump and he's like, oh, come to the oil meeting. I'm like, I don't, it's not my world. So I was like, okay. So I go up there and all these heads of the big oil companies, including Exxon, they didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, but we'll see. And I just happened to be sitting in the room totally by accident. I mean, literally by accident, because he's asked me to come. And he's telling him, he's like, no. This is for our country and you'll get a cut that I will decide. I can just tell you what I saw.
So that's not how it should work, right? Because when you say to a different country, we're going to come and we're going to take your natural resources and we're just going to take a certain amount for us, period. Sad day for you. What'll happen is an insurgency. When you go and you attack other countries, our military is amazing. Best in the world, best that's ever been created, right?
Yep.
So that was an amazing mission that they did in Venezuela and an amazing one they did in Iran. But you do 3 or 4 of those and you're going to get burned because it's just a matter of chances.
I think that's right.
And in case you're wondering why Cenk went on the Tucker Carlson show, and I'm sure many of you are wondering exactly that, here's your answer. He tells you.
I also want to break down the barriers of Republicans versus Democrats, right wing versus left wing. I think that it's kind of used to divide us. And I think that the powerful already have an incredible elite team. They're very, very organized, and they do it through donations to the politicians, etc.
Yes.
But the American people are not organized. We have built two teams, but those two teams, the Republicans and the Democrats, have been trained to fight each other instead of fighting up, right?
Exactly.
And so when you split the population that way, you take away all of their energy because you have them use their energy against one another rather than against you. It's actually brilliant.
It's how the British ruled India.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
And it's done on a meta level in every way. Also, by the way, on a global level, Christians versus Muslims. 2 billion here, 2 billion there. Make sure you guys are fighting one another. And hey, look at that. We've used up all your energy fighting one another and not looking up.
I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great last point that you made there, Cenk. A lot of great points. And I encourage everyone to check out the rest of the interview. Again, nearly 2.5 hours long. So, make some tea and buckle in for a little bit. But no, I agree. I think you do get a lot of flack sometimes, Cenk, whenever you go on these other programs, more right-leaning programs. But one of the things that we always complain about here on networks like this one is that we are often just preaching to the choir, and wouldn't it be great if we could get our message out to the greater populace? And this is one of the ways that we can do exactly that. So what's your feedback on your chat with Tucker?
Yeah, so there's two different groups of people that'll attack us. It's not that important. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but one has already happened. The Laura Loomer attacked the interview. How dare they? They should bow their heads to Israel. And Tucker Carlson's betraying the president by telling the story about Venezuela that we just showed you. And Tucker's betraying everyone by talking to someone on the left. Please stay divided. Israel wants you to stay divided, so it's much easier to conquer you. So that's totally to be expected. My guess is later some on the left, a small group will find like 13 seconds here or 5 seconds there and try to make a big deal out of it. Although I don't know which 13 seconds they're gonna find. Because what I want you to do is watch the whole thing and make up your own mind. Don't listen to the Laura Loomers of the right or the left. And so we'll put the link in the description box. But guys, in terms of what was the content of it, if you're not gonna watch it, I'll summarize it for you. It was anti-war, don't fund Israel, and get money out of politics. Oh, right, all three of those are issues that we on the left have been pushing for the last 20 years. So we can get back into the old debates of should we take yes for an answer? And it is, to me, it's always remarkable that a significant percentage of the left, or a small percentage, I don't know what the percentage is, of the left says, no, don't take yes for an answer. No, if someone agrees with your position, you should hate them for it. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Okay, but that's okay, that's for another day. But what is much more important, Yaz, is the reaction so far that it's been getting about, just about almost everyone outside of the real extremes is like, yeah, that, get money out of politics, stop the wars, represent America and not a different country. These are not controversial positions. The only reason why we don't realize that 90% of the country agrees on these things is because the media creates that illusion of, oh, you have to hate each other. You have to fight. And yes, you disagree on some things, and those are the only things you should focus on. Do not ever focus on the things you agree on, because that is where the American people are directly opposed to the elites who run this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is interesting about what's happening right now in this country is we're getting so much footage of things that are happening, not just in, between Israel and Gaza, but also right here in our own country. We're seeing things for ourselves as they're playing out in these places. And then we're hearing the narrative that's coming from the administration, and it's directly contradicting that. So what's uniquely happening now, which is something that hasn't happened to this extent, I think, in the last 10 years, is that people they really are starting to kind of be like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore, right? And what is happening is we're getting people on the right actually start to come around, not to the Democrats, not to the liberals, but to our side of that left side.